Chapter 1026. A Middle King. This was an existence that could shake the entire holy city and mobilize all of its forces to fight against. But now, Han Dong was using his leg as a pillow and was drooling all over his leg. If this scene was painted into an oil painting and sold, every hybrid demon city would buy one and hang it in the interrogation room to torture others. You're awake. Oh, Bufo. Han Dong was so scared that he was not sleepy at all. It's all right. I came here to talk to you about the humans. Just now, your friend was sent back by me. What surprised me was that in just 300 years, you humans have already reached the level of king. It's really incredible. Because I've been in the dreamlands for a long time, I haven't understood the humans for a long time. Can you tell me more about them? Bufo's words did not have any hostility or intentions. It was just pure curiosity. I wonder who the Toad ancestor saw. 3 of them released auras that reached the level of a king. Bufo directly spat out a camouflage material from the Dreamlands. The room in front of them was immediately transformed into the Great Demon Castle. The images and characteristics of the 6 captains were clearly displayed. Immediately, Bufo pointed at 3 of them. They had already reached the lowest level of king in the hybrid demon assessment. These 3 are the captains of our holy cities, 13 knights. They are the god of death, Alex, the king of hell, Malone, and the commander of this expedition, the great demon captain. I'm not too clear about the god of death and the great demon captain. As for Captain Malone, he passed the highest status test in the large destiny world, hell not long ago. The Toad ancestor made a thoughtful expression. The highest status in a large world? I didn't think that the humans were still so talented. In a situation where they were almost exterminated, using the path given by destiny, a king-level existence was born in just 300 years. Although it's just a passing line, it's already very good. Thinking about it, there should be at least one king-level existence in the other main cities. It's no wonder that existence in the void deliberately kept a group of humans. Upon hearing this, Han Dong hurriedly asked, "Existences in the void? Is this the old king that my void tentacles correspond to?" Yes, the one hidden in the void is the most knowledgeable one among us. After all, tens of thousands of years ago, the previous generation of humans had made such a huge mistake. Many hybrid demons viewed humans as a group of mischievous inferior species and held a strong hatred for them. If it wasn't for the Void's mandatory requirement to retain a group of people, you wouldn't even have the chance to build a main city. As expected, Han Dong was also suspicious. Why didn't such a powerful hybrid demon take advantage of the early stages of human development to wipe out the insignificant humans? Sure enough, there was an old king interfering. From the looks of it, the Void's decision is correct. From now on, Meritus will accompany you to live in K. If you have any special requests, come to the Dark Labyrinth to see me. Thank you, Bufo. Bufo gently patted his bald head, as if he had thought of something. How strange. Why do you still have the smell of the deep sea in your body? Since he had asked this, Han Dong no longer hid anything. After all, he had already explained the origin of his head to the Bufo in the Dreamlands. Nicole, come out. Several pink tentacles quickly drilled out, and only half of Nicole's head was exposed. She had a head full of sea-color hair. The pressure from the hybrid demon bloodline caused her to tremble and her face to turn pale. Nicole's appearance immediately attracted the attention of Mary, who was kneeling at the side. When she looked sideways at this beautiful girl, Mary actually had a certain reaction. Perhaps it was because Nicole was too beautiful and delicate, or perhaps it was because of the temptation of the pink tentacles. Mary could not help but stick out her tongue and wanted to pounce on her and lick her. No wonder I also faintly felt the smell of the deep sea in Nicholas' body. I thought it was because he was an envoy. I didn't expect such a cute little sister to be hidden in his body. Dependent? And she also has the bloodline of the deep sea royal family. How rare. Was she brought out from the deep sea? Brought out from the Destiny realm. Nicole is a dependent born and raised in the Destiny realm. What? Bufo's bald head came closer, scaring Nicole so much that she wanted to hide in Han Dong's body. Don't be afraid. The Bufo asked a question. Just answer it directly. Oh, okay. Let me ask you, does your Destiny realm also have a complete deep-sea system? Although there are no powerful existences like you or the Lord of the Deep Sea, there are individuals like my father who have reached the mythical level. Such an answer made the Bufo reveal an ugly expression and fall into deep thought. Sure enough, the reappearance of the Gate of Destiny is for some purpose, because there is no way to completely control U.S. hybrid demons. They intend to use the form of dependence to cultivate a hybrid demon world. Unable to control? Toad Ancestor, are you saying that our world cannot be completely used by fate? As long as there are those in power overseeing it, the sovereignty will not be completely lost. It's just that the things in the depths of the black vortex have always been thirsting for our world. As the perfect combination of human and hybrid demon, you may be able to play a crucial role. Let's not talk about it anymore. I have to make a trip to the deep sea and report this matter to my lord. I may not return for a month. Okay, you can go ahead. Bufo's mouth directly opened to an unimaginable extent, with a self-devouring to achieve an unobstructed spatial transmission. It went straight to the deep-sea domain. Han Dong also fell in a deep thought. The Black Tower is actually unable to completely control our world. No wonder it can be used as the entrance of destiny, and also as the entry point for participants to come. Sovereignty, this has already involved a domain that I can't see clearly. Even if I look up, it's better to take it slowly. When Han Dong finished thinking, there was a strange movement behind him. He saw that Nicole had already been pushed onto the bed, 8 soft pink octopus tentacles dangling by the side of the bed, revealing a look of hopelessness. She allowed Mary to lick each of her tentacles. Before Han Dong could speak, Mary tilted her head excitedly. Nicholas, you're so mean. You don't know how to share such a cute little octopus sister with me. About 5 minutes later, Nicole hid beside Han Dong, staring at Miss Mary with a fearful expression. It just so happens that Nicole's major is the secret technique of the deep sea, which is also related to water. Miss Mary, during this period of time, bring her along to learn. After all, toads are attached to the deep sea. Their abilities should be the same. Don't worry, leave it to me. Mary was so hungry that she was drooling. Nicole stared at Han Dong pitifully, shaking her head desperately. Chapter 10:27. Since Meritus was very interested in Nicole, Han Dong let nature take its course and handed Nicole over. First of all, he could train Nicole. Second, he considered that Meritus would often pester him. Although this kind of pestering was loose and wouldn't make him feel uncomfortable, it would affect Han Dong's studies to a certain extent. It wasn't easy for him to stay in Toad City for a while. Han Dong wanted to use this opportunity to learn more. Han Dong borrowed a book called Nkei Teaching Book Collection. It summarized the origin and creation of Nkei in detail, as well as the hybrid demon vassals that lived in Nkei. Among them, there was a detailed division and explanation of Nkei's direct descendants, the Toad demons. In a king-level city like Nkei, only the hybrid demons were categorized. Those below the hybrid demons were called lower-class, child, or low-class slaves. There was no detailed division. Similar to the Knights of the Holy City, according to the most basic attributes, they could be divided into 5 types: Crusader, Library, and so on. The Toad demons could also be divided into 3 types. 1. Water Toad, light and fast, completely dissolving in water. In addition to being proficient in water-type secret techniques, it can also use water as a medium to perform spatial teleportation. 2. True Toad, has an extraordinary body and powerful physical skills. It can use the most basic Toad steps to perform short-distance spatial teleportation. 3. Void Toad. Rare, this type of Toad demon is mixed with a relatively pure Bufo bloodline. Its main ability is to devour. In addition to the most basic spatial devouring, it can also devour itself. It can form a Toad stomach in its body, which can be used to store and transfer foreign objects. Han Dong was a little confused when he saw this. Strange. What kind of toad does Meridus belong to? On the surface, it seems like the water toad has more attributes. In fact, she had an open-toed stomach that helped me transfer a million-level mummy during the Dimensional War. It was a crucial part of winning the war. Is it really a rare void toad? Did I pick up a treasure? Forget it. I should think about my own matters first. I'll ask her in detail the next time I see her. True Toad and Toad Steps. I seem to have gained something unexpected. Closing the book, Han Dong immediately took the Nkei world's unique tongue ladder to the underground world. It was actually a type of toad lift. The driving device belonged to a toad, and the lift was suspended by its extremely tough tongue. The weight of the lift was up to 5,000 kilograms, and it was transported up and down purely by the strength of the tongue. This was not a biological technology. Toad, who was responsible for the lift, was a professional elevator worker. He would be responsible for 6 hours of work every day. They took the elevator and arrived at the familiar Secret Word Canyon. After crossing the suspension bridge and turning into a hidden cave, Han Dong once again arrived at the ancient stone temple. This time, it was different. Without the accompaniment of the bufo, an indescribable sense of danger overflowed from the stone temple. The danger even turned into a small toad visible to the naked eye, constantly overflowing from the front door of the stone temple. Han Dong knew very well that this was an ability of a mythical body. Its aura could take corporeal form. Even so, Han Dong still braced himself and took a step forward. Suddenly, the pressure turned into a manic cold wind, blowing on Han Dong's body. This feeling was like the first time Han Dong met a commander. Mythical body, in an extremely dangerous situation, the body and the brain would spontaneously activate. Domain, a completely different domain spread out from the bottom of his feet. Due to the domain, miniature pyramids made of black sand rose from the ground around Han Dong. There were a total of 3 pyramids. Is this the effect of the pharaoh identity? This kind of spirit in the will is actually effective on the domain. No wonder at that time, Han Dong recalled the end of the Great Betrayer incident. During the critical period when he was threatened by the president of the Writers' Association, mythical body in disguise, Commander Malone arrived. Whether it was the president, Han Dong, or the surrounding onlookers, they all felt as if they were stepping on the scorched earth of hell. At that time, Commander Malone was a king of hell with a crown of ashes on his head in everyone's eyes. Now, Han Dong was also using a node identity. Perhaps it was not as good as Malone, but the effect was similar. When the domain spread out, Han Dong felt like he was in control of a king, and the use of black magic became smoother. And outsiders who stepped into this domain would also be attacked by death. Once they died in battle, they would become one of the dead under Han Dong's command and continue to fight until the domain was retracted and the war ended. Of course, it was impossible to kill the target in front of him. All Han Dong had to do was to defend. In a situation where he could not dodge, Han Dong crossed his arms in front of him. The sand that flowed out from the surface of his left arm quickly formed a giant shield with the god Anubis engraved on it. His right arm condensed into a meat shield piled up by blood dogs through the newly replaced primitive blood. Blood-brewed blood flowed between the meat shield. It was extraordinarily tough and could be regenerated infinitely. A punch landed. Han Dong felt like he had been hit by a giant mountain. Boom! The seemingly indestructible shield instantly exploded, but it also offset 90% of the impact. Han Dong barely managed to withstand it. But because this punch only affected the upper body, it caused a huge acceleration. It directly caused the upper and lower body to be completely torn apart. His 2 legs remained in place. His upper body, with his arms crossed in front of his chest, flew backward like a bullet. Boom! He crashed heavily into the stone wall, causing a small tremor in the stone temple area. The guardian of the stone temple, the stone skeleton toad, was standing at the place where the attack had just occurred. It did not have any intention of attacking again. Instead, it stared coldly at the half-paralyzed Han Dong and gave a simple evaluation of Han Dong's defense. At such a low level, you already have a formed domain. The will of a king saved your life. Also, your two arms are very interesting. It's a pity that your two legs are too useless. Han Dong slowly reconstructed his two legs, suppressing the chaotic blood and qi in his body and slowly supporting himself. He was not angry at all. He knew that the stone temple was not to be trespassed. Even though he had almost died from the blow just now, Han Dong was still very respectful when facing the stone skeleton toad. He immediately responded with the toad's words. It's precisely because my two legs are weak that the Bufo gave me the Book of the Dead Spirit leg copy. Senior Stone Puppet, you should belong to the true toad. I've specially come to ask you about toad legs. What? When the stone skeleton toad stared at the book wrapped in toad skin in Han Dong's hand, it revealed an unusually surprised expression. It seemed that this book was of great significance to Kei. It seemed that such a secret manual should not appear in the hands of a foreign race. But this was indeed the Bufo's decision. And to the Bufo, the stone puppet could be said to be the most loyal mythical body. I didn't expect this book to be given to you. Come with me. Chapter 1028. The stone skeleton toad was also a hybrid demon from the old era. He looked down on humans who were controlled by their desires. But in front of him, the Bufo that he worshipped the most had given a secret manual that could be ranked in the top 5 of a book that even Wang Chan had to make a huge contribution to exchange for the Book of Necromancy, leg copy, to an outsider. Moreover, it was an outsider with human attributes. Even if the stone skeleton did not understand, he firmly believed in every decision that the Bufo made. In the passage of the stone temple, clap, clap, clap. Every time the stone skeleton stepped on the ground, his huge feet would make a crisp sound. The stone skeleton's posture was mentioned before. His upper body was as thin as firewood, but his lower body was abnormally swollen, and he had two extremely exaggerated muscular toad legs. The stone skeleton used stone spikes to completely seal his eyes. The stone skeleton believed that the naked eye was an extremely inferior way of observation, so he wanted to focus his senses on other places. This time, he did not go to the main hall that housed the toad clothes. Instead, he went through a fork in the road into a damp room covered in dust. The floor was filled with small toads. There were no extra facilities. During this time, you will stay here temporarily and study the Book of Necromancy, leg copy. If you have any questions, you can come to me directly, but please do not ask me unimportant and simple questions. If your question is not worth answering in my opinion, then please get lost. Boom! After saying that, the stone door closed, leaving Han Dong alone. This big toad looks very harsh, but he's still a good person. The environment looks terrible, but it is the best place to learn toad techniques. The damp floor was full of toads jumping around. Han Dong sat cross-legged, holding the Book of Necromancy that the Bufo had created based on the Book of Iban and the toad demon's characteristics. However, just as Han Dong turned to the first page, a resonance was triggered between Han Dong's eyebrows, and the little magic eye opened on its own without permission. The text in the book was difficult to understand. The rough and abstract patterns. There were even some seemingly meaningless and messy lines. Immediately, under the effect of the little magic eye, the ancient book was rearranged, reconstructed, and modified into a modern book that Han Dong could easily decipher. It was even equipped with moving images. Could the little magic eye be the key to the other books? However, there should also be the effect of my first talent, dark lore. After all, even though this thing focused on body arts, it originated from the Book of Dead Spirits and was related to darkness. This way, the efficiency will be much higher. In a short time, Han Dong was immersed in the sea of knowledge, in the early stages of learning. Bumps the size of beans grew on the surface of Han Dong's human legs. There were small holes on the surface of the lumps, absorbing the special water stains in the stone room. The clear water diffusing on the ground all came from high-level toad demons and was the essence secreted from their bodies. This was also why Han Dong said that the stone puppet was a good person. At the same time, the small toad jumping on the ground was also attracted and attached itself to Han Dong's 2 legs. As time passed, Han Dong's 2 legs also showed signs of amorphous swelling. This was the first stage of shaping mentioned in the book. If one wanted to learn leg techniques in depth, one must first master a pair of toad demon legs. In terms of legs alone, Nkei's toad was definitely one of the best in the entire hybrid demon circle. It could be seen from Miss Mary's unparalleled white and fleshy leg. Is this kid really a human? To be able to shape with a human body so quickly, this speed is already faster than some of the talented atavism physiques. If this continues, he will be able to form perfect hybrid demon legs in about a month. The stone skeleton toad seemed unconcerned, but it was actually carefully observing Han Dong's changes in the dark. Every other day, there would be a slight spatial fluctuation in the stone room. A plate of raw insect would be sent to Han Dong's room as food. This thing was high in protein and high in energy. Han Dong was not picky when he was in the state of cultivation. Once he felt the slightest hunger, he would grab a handful and swallow it into his stomach. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. The toad essence in the stone room was no longer absorbed. Both legs were seriously swollen, and each leg was larger than the torso. Now Han Dong looked abnormally deformed. Under the swollen skin, there were endless tentacles, and the interior was in a state of chaos. It was as if it was stuffed with countless tumors. It was a mess. However, this was the normal process. The maximum swelling value given in the book minus 1,000% has been reached. It's time to end it. The last stage of shaping. Rumble, void, tentacles shining with starlight overflowed from the swollen legs, as if they were deflating and integrating. The whole process of shaping was like a quilt. First, the thick cotton wool was stuffed in, and then it was slowly sorted out. Faceless head, void laboratory. Han Dong's consciousness had already created a leg mold in the laboratory. Now he only needed to use the void tentacles as the main force, and according to the mold style, he could integrate, compress, and refine it. The reason why he chose the void tentacles was that Han Dong wanted to let the legs lay the foundation for connecting with space in advance. Another half a month passed. The originally swollen legs had returned to normal size. Perhaps because Han Dong used the void tentacles to finish it, the legs did not have the appearance of a toad at all. Compared to the previous human legs, the legs only had more lines and structure, but they were still slightly thin. However, if you can observe the internal structure of the legs, you will find that the structure has completely changed. According to the records of the leg manuscript, the internal structure was completely classified as a toad's leg, and it was quite delicate, almost without flaws. Finally, the foundation was laid. It's been a month and a half. Time really flies. Let's go out and move a little, my butt hurts. When Han Dong got up with the newly constructed void toad leg, he was not careful to control his strength. Boom! When he got up, it became a super jump, and his head directly hit the ceiling. What the? Han Dong could not help but exclaim in his native language. Immediately after, Han Dong, whose hair was disheveled and whose clothes were covered with mold, walked out of the stone room and collided with the stone skeleton toad standing at the door. Not bad. Your learning ability is not like the inferior human race at all. And the hybrid demon leg you formed seems to be a bit different. It seems to be related to the tentacles you carry. Well, thank you for taking care of me during this time. Next, you can learn the advanced skill of the toad steps. When do you plan to come? Huh, I didn't say I was going back. I just practiced the toad legs, so I came out to walk. Give me 10 minutes to adapt, and I will immediately start practicing the advanced skill. What? You don't want to rest? The stone skeleton could not understand the young man in front of him for a while. In his concept, shaping was extremely physically and mentally exhausting. Even he had to rest for a full week. Well, 10 minutes will be enough. The stone skeleton could not help but remove the stone thorns that sealed his eyelids and carefully observe this strange human with the naked eye. Chapter 10:29. Shaping took 1.5 months. Next, he would learn the skills related to the Book of the Dead Spirit, leg copy. Time passed quickly as well. In terms of skills, Han Dong also consulted the stone skeleton toad many times. The experience from the mythical body was not in the book, and it was beneficial for Han Dong's super-fast understanding. In the blink of an eye, the 3 months day NK was up. Han Dong's legs were still in the human category and not the strong, curved, and web-toed legs. Lines of starlight void covered the surface of his legs. Your legs are very special. You can learn the basic toad steps technique in 1.5 months, which is stronger than many atavistic bodies. The stone skeleton toad was actually very tactful. Han Dong's learning speed was even faster than its own. 3 months in the stone temple. The stone skeleton toad's initial rejection and indifference had also changed. The main reason was that Han Dong's talent and characteristics were too exaggerated, surpassing any of its kind that the toad had ever seen. To some extent, he could even be compared with the Bufo. Thank you for your teaching during this period of time, Senior Stone Puppet. See you again if there's a chance. After saying goodbye to the stone skeleton, the pressure in his heart was relieved. It was still very stressful to stay with such a rigid mythical body. Just as Han Dong stepped out of the stone temple, a voice rang out. Catapult start. Whoosh. The tearing sound of the air kept ringing in his ears. The running speed given by the new legs was incredible. Jump. Han Dong jumped sideways and flew more than 20 meters with his body. Because of the special structure of the soles of his feet and the void absorption, he could easily stick to the wall, allowing Han Dong to run 90 degrees vertically between the cliffs. Han Dong was completely immersed in the feeling of pleasure because of the flexible use of his legs. However, the other residents of Coded Word Canyon did not see it that way. In their eyes, they only saw a tramp with disheveled hair, a stench coming from his body, and his clothes covered in mold running around the canyon like a madman. It was as if there was something wrong with his head. Han Dong naturally knew this. Before seeing the Bufo, he returned to the hotel to rest. I've been in the stone temple for 3 months. Miss Mary should be looking for me everywhere, right? However, when Han Dong returned to the hotel, he did not see any missing person notices. The boss also greeted him normally. Just as Han Dong returned to his original guest room, a burst of female, playful sounds came from the bathroom. Through the frosted glass door, he could barely see a few octopus tentacles wrapped around 2 iconic big meaty legs, sliding back and forth. Han Dong's return naturally attracted the attention of those in the bathroom. Who is it? The moment the glass door was slammed open. Then he kicked towards Han Dong. Boom! The entire building trembled, and the flesh-shaped balloon that carried the hotel in the air swayed slightly. Han Dong tilted his head and dodged the kick. The wall to the side of his face had a hole that was tens of centimeters deep and spread out in a circular shape. The thing that had attacked him was a white, fleshy leg, and bean-sized water droplets could be clearly seen on its surface. Looking along the thigh, it was a tall woman wrapped in a bath towel. With moist curly hair hanging in front of her face, Meritus was looking at Han Dong fiercely. As for Nicole, she obediently stuck behind him, resting her head on Mary's shoulder, and looked at the intruder with a strange expression. Such a stinky tramp dares to break into my room? You're courting death. Miss Mary, it's me. Han Dong hurriedly brushed away his hair that was stained with dirty water and showed a kind smile. You still dare to disguise yourself. How can my mating partner have such a sloppy appearance like you? Go to hell. Han Dong had stayed in the stone temple for too long, and his original smell was mostly covered by the stone temple. In addition, there was an additional smell of a toad from practicing the toad legs. This caused him to be misidentified. Another kick. Count. The primeval blood circled around his right arm, and Han Dong raised his hand to block the kick. Smack. He firmly grabbed the moist foot, and the position was just right in front of Han Dong. Looking at the horizontal kick, he seemed to be able to see something under the bath towel. Sister Mary, he's really master. I can feel the power of the contract. Nicole reacted at this time and hurriedly pulled Mary's shoulder. Her attack was blocked, and Mary also realized that she had misunderstood. Nicholas, it's really you. How did you become so smelly? and even your smell change a lot. Go and take a bath. Your appearance is just like the lowest level of dirty water toad in K. So dirty. Didn't I come back to take a bath? Han Dong bypassed the two and entered the bathroom. The bathtub water that the two girls had bathed in completely sank his body. In a short while, the natural pool water was completely black. He changed the water 3 times before his body was completely clean. Outside the bathroom, Mary's figure was pacing back and forth, as if she was hesitating whether to say something or not. About 10 minutes later, a low and hoarse voice was heard. "Sorry, I mistook you for someone else. It's okay, after I take a bath, I'll go to London." "Oh, where have you been in the past 3 months? Nicole and I have been looking for you for a while, and we even asked Toad City's intelligence department about your situation, but we didn't get any information. However, according to the master-servant relationship between you and Nicole, we were able to confirm that you were in Toad City, so we didn't continue to look for you. I stayed in the stone temple for 3 months. Otherwise, I wouldn't have no place to take a bath." Bufo's stone temple? Yes. I wanted to find a secluded place to read and study, so I thought of the stone temple. The stone skeleton toad's temper is very strange. Even I can't get in. How did you get in? I got beaten up and got in. The stone skeleton toad's temper is indeed bad, but it's still a good person. If it wasn't for the stone skeleton, my learning and cognition wouldn't be so fast. You really aren't afraid of death. I once heard that someone trespassed the stone temple and tried to secretly look at the walls, but he was directly killed by the stone skeleton toad with 1 punch. No less than 10 hybrid demons died at his hands, and the Bufo won't pursue the matter. At this point, Mary pushed the door open and entered the bathroom. She didn't pay attention to other parts of the body and directly locked onto Han Dong's leg. She didn't hold back at all. Meritus directly knelt outside the bathtub, picked up one of Han Dong's legs, and carefully observed the starlight patterns on the surface. Then a slender and smooth tongue stretched out. It licked the surface of Han Dong's leg very intimately, using this method to explore the internal structure. This slippery and slightly itchy feeling of the toad's tongue was somewhat unbearable for Han Dong. As Mary licked, she revealed a surprised expression and turned to look at Han Dong. "Your leg is so perfect." Okay." Han Dong didn't say anything and let Mary continue licking. After all, this was Toad City, and he couldn't bring the human rules here. In any case, Han Dong didn't care how Mary felt comfortable. Chapter 10:30. Okay. Resting place, Han Dong and Meritus stood on top of a broken stone bridge. The Bufo's head filled the upper space as it stared at the two of them with its deep stone eyes. Your legs are pretty good. You've made good use of them in the past 3 months. Thank you, Bufo. Have you decided? Do you want to return to the human expeditionary force or go to London or somewhere else? I haven't changed my mind. I still plan to follow Meritus to London. However, I want to ask the Bufo if you know anything about the expeditionary force. As I've been interested in the few king-tier humans recently, I used my avatar to watch the siege of Blasphemy City, Mina Nur. It was a very interesting battle. Even I couldn't help but applaud. It was even more interesting than some of the stage plays in the Abyss. After 2 months, you humans finally won the siege. One of the human females, Olivia, was very strong. She had already reached king tier and contributed more than 30% of the battle. Moreover, the human assault team led by her was very good in all aspects, especially the all-female Saintus team. They had a strong suppressive effect on Mina Nur's blasphemy. All in all, the battle was fought beautifully. The Saintess of Chastity. She was in charge of the first large-scale battle. Thank you, Bufo. I don't have to go back now. No need to thank me. This battle was very interesting to begin with. Other than me, a few former kings were also secretly watching. Everyone seemed to be quite satisfied. Moreover, this group of humans also proved their worth through this battle and won a certain amount of speaking rights. Let's talk about your upcoming journey. After all, the situation in London is very special. Even the two of you may be in danger. As the first area where the participant incident occurred, the city itself is in a state of high alert. The former kings behind the scenes are also inspecting all the movements in London. I can only move you to the wilderness outside of London. The distance is uncertain. Also, as I said before, the participation of the city of London attracted a lot of messengers from other old kings. Among them, there might be some foreign species with bad intentions. After all, the relationship between the hybrid demons is much more chaotic than you think. In addition, the city of London is also using the participant incident to recruit elite vassals. If you want to stay in the city of London for a long time, this may be a good way. I'll leave the details to you. As for the identity of Nkei's messenger, you don't need it. With your head and your identity as a messenger, it should be easier for you to enter London. Before Han Dong could say anything, a powerful spatial field quickly enveloped the two of them. In the blink of an eye, he was already standing on the surface of a tongue that was hundreds of meters wide. The Bufo's space movement was quite stable. It didn't even make people feel that it was moving, nor did it have any spatial discomfort. It followed a space route that belonged to the Bufo and headed towards the European plate. The toad opened its mouth again. Han Dong and Meritus had landed in a dark forest. This was true darkness. It was very different from the eternal night that Han Dong knew. All the light sources in the forest were swallowed up, leaving only darkness. That's right. The darkness here was like a living fluid flowing through the forest, making people feel very uncomfortable. At the same time, Han Dong had a feeling. Once a light source was created here, such as lighting a torch or using a bioluminescent device, it would attract the darkness within a kilometer and devour the light source and its owner. It's really dark, as expected of the area around the city of London. Fortunately, the little magic eye can receive the dark matter and feed back an accurate visual image to my brain. Mary reached out and touched her body. She felt that the darkness here was like mucus and worms crawling all over her body. Are you okay? I'm not very comfortable. I need some time to get used to it. By the way, why do you feel nothing at all? I'm more adaptable. Wait, there seems to be someone. Han Dong pulled Meritus. Void jump. It erased the process in the middle of the jump. With a flash of starlight, everyone appeared on a branch 10 meters above the ground. With the help of camouflage, they merged with the tree. Walking slowly along the forest path was a group of locals wrapped in black cloaks, each of them pushing a minecart. The minecart was loaded with stones that exuded a dark aura. The dark matter around the minecart even condensed into a terrifying human face in the air. Meritus introduced them based on her knowledge as an atavistic body. These should be the miners of the city of London. They are responsible for mining black rock in the area outside the city. Han Dong looked puzzled. Miners? The aura of these guys should have reached the level of newborn body, hybrid demon, right? Don't bring up the concept of your human position. As far as I know, the miners in the city of London are a relatively high-end position. They even need to obtain a mining certificate before they can officially take up the post. These are the carefully selected hybrid demon miners. The black rock they mine will be used for the infrastructure and energy supply of the city of London. Some of the black rock with high purity can even be used as food for the nobles. Oh, then let's follow them quietly. I think the route they chose should be the safest. Less than a minute after Han Dong said this sentence, the mining team suddenly stopped. A black tail emerged from the bottom of the cloak, indicating that they were ready to fight. At the same time, the dark aura around them turned into tentacles. This was the dark forest, and this group of dark residents would get a 20% increase in their attributes. At the same time, they also released strange tools in their hands. One person pulled the eyeball giant axe. One person held a dark oil lamp. One person held a soft tentacle short sword, and one person held a vortex-shaped pendant, silently chanting a spell. Even so, there was still a trace of fear in their eyes. What appeared in front of them was a monster with more than 20 thick goat hooves. Together, these sturdy goat hooves could barely support its swollen body. The surface of the meatball was full of tentacles with a toothless mouth structure raised high. Between the tentacles at the top of the meatball, there was also a humanoid upper body. It was faintly discernible between the dancing tentacles. It seemed to be a female without eyes and had her hands placed in front of her chest. The overall height was the same as the trees here. This thing exuded a stench similar to the fermentation when the tomb was just dug, but this smell stimulated the surrounding life, making them have the desire to reproduce. Even hiding on the branches, Meridas couldn't help but use her moist meat leg to rub Han Dong's body. Meridas said with a look of surprise, "Why is the offspring of the black goat here?" Chapter 10:31. A hybrid demon with goat hooves, meatballs, raised tentacles, and female features suddenly appeared in the forest. From the behavior of the miners from London, this female hybrid demon didn't seem to belong here. Mature demon? It feels weird. The energy contained in its body seems to be higher than Count's. It's almost twice as tall. It also contains a strange aura. I have never seen this type of hybrid demon before. Logically speaking, Han Dong had a huge increase in strength in the world of Prometheus. At the same time, he also made up for his leg. Although he was only a rank 3 knight, he could rely on the solitary performer to fight against an atavistic demon. He should be able to suppress a mature demon. But the hybrid demon in front of him, which was called the Black Goat's offspring, made Han Dong very uncomfortable. The reproduction aura released by this thing stimulated everyone present. Mary rubbed her smooth thighs on Han Dong's body while she gasped for breath. She put her mouth next to Han Dong's ear and briefly explained the relevant information about this special hybrid demon. The Black Goat's offspring. This is a kind of offspring directly given birth to by an old king. It is very different from other hybrid demons. Like us toad demons, most of us are not born from Bufo. There are dozens of generations in between. But this old king called the Black Goat, her reproduction is more than the sum of our. The hybrid demons in her kingdom are basically her offspring. However, due to the large number of births, there are differences in quality. The one in front of us is a very ordinary breed, but it is better to be careful. After all, the blood of the old king flows in its body. It can use abilities similar to the Black Goat. It is much stronger than other hybrid demons. Black Goat? This old king is also active in Europe. The old kings, their original bodies are not on Earth. It is difficult for the planet to bear their existence. However, because this planet is at the center of the universe, it is also the closest dimension node to the Destiny world. The old kings are always paying attention to the situation here. Their avatars and projections may be active here. However, the biggest backer behind London is the Grey Walker that corresponds to your brain, Nicholas. The appearance of the Black Mountain Goat's offspring here is considered an invasion by the rules. Moreover, this thing seems to want to attack the miners. Observe for a while and act according to the situation. The mining squad. The miner pulling the eyeball axe was called Chio, a newborn. The miner holding the dark oil lamp was called Dark Underworld, a newborn. The miner holding the soft, tentacle short sword was called Ro, a newborn. The miner holding the vortex-shaped pendant was called Vortex Flame, a newborn. Black Goat. Damn it, was this thing trying to sneak into London? We must kill it here and bring back the information of the Black Mountain Goat's invasion. Moreover, a single hoof of the Black Goat's offspring is worth more than a few carts of ores. With the power of darkness, we should be able to kill it. Vortex Flame, when you throw your magic over, will immediately spread out and look for opportunities to wear down this guy's stamina. My magic is ready. The miner holding the pendant tore off the cloak wrapped around his body and released the dark magic from the array on his chest. A black flame arrow with a skull-shaped top flew straight at the monster. However, staring at the flame arrow, the female body hidden among the many tentacles revealed a sinister smile. He controlled one of the thick tentacles and whipped it toward the incoming flame arrow. A purple stream of light flashed across the surface of the tentacle, giving it the special effect of magic radiation. Ha! The flame arrow was 100% reflected and acted on vortex flame. The scream of being burned didn't even spread out. Trample, dozens of meters away, the Black Mountain goat's offspring stomped the ground with one of its hooves. The effect of the trample directly acted on the burning miner's body and directly crushed it. Instant kill. This scene directly scared the other miners. Even Han Dong was shocked and carefully analyzed the situation just now. That move just now, it should be because of contact. The tentacle just now wasn't as simple as a magic reflection, because this dark resident launched a civil magic attack. When the magic and the tentacle came into contact, it caused the caster to be marked. The trample attack can lock onto the marked person. It looks like a spatial attack, but it's actually a curse-type trample attack that directly acts on the target individual. The power is also quite amazing. It actually directly killed Newborn. Although the other 3 miners were frightened, they didn't cower. At this time, a miner directly smashed the dark oil lamp in his hand. A black, oily substance climbed onto the bodies of the 2 teammates, giving them a buff. The main body is the female body hidden among the tentacles. There's only one chance. You guys go. One person with an eyeball axe and the other with a tentacle dagger attack from different directions. The miner with the axe, Chio, took off his coat in the process of running, revealing a strong body and a bald black head. He seemed to intend to attract more attention from the front so that Soft could smoothly cut into the inside. In the process of running, a flying axe was thrown. The eyeball axe could automatically lock onto the target and accurately cut into the meat mass, causing a certain amount of damage. Because of the dark enhancement, the damage increased by 50%. This made the black goat's offspring let out a low howl. Stinking blood sprayed out from the wound, and its body also slightly leaned back. Good chance. Chio changed his strategic plan and locked onto the lower part of the target. When the sprint reached a certain speed, he changed to a slide kick. He smoothly entered the lower part of the black goat's offspring's body and took the opportunity to retrieve the eyeball axe. Locking onto the seemingly defenseless lower part of the meat mass, he prepared to wildly chop it. Just as he was about to raise his axe, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. The meat mass squirmed. A stronger and sturdier sheep's hoof suddenly grew out from the gap of the meat mass. Before the axe could be swung, the sheep's hoof had already landed. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of bones and flesh breaking could be heard. The disintegration rune engraved on the bottom of the sheep's hoof made it impossible for the individual to regenerate. Immediately after, another scream came from above. Soft, who was responsible for attacking the humanoid main body, was pierced through by 4 tentacles and lifted in the air. Under the hood, a dark elf's face was revealed, and her eyes were filled with the fear of death. The next second, a black dried corpse that had been sucked dry was casually thrown on the ground. In the distance, the only miner holding a broken oil lamp was terrified. How could this be? In the blink of an eye, the black goat's offspring that was as tall as a tree had already stepped in front of him. The many tentacles on the top of the meat mass spread out, revealing the upper body of a woman with a sinister face. Her abdomen had a huge mouth without teeth. Her arms were spread out in an embrace. The mouth on the abdomen spoke in a seductive voice. Come enjoy the joy of reproduction and become my husband." The oil lamp fell. The last miner was mentally invaded and voluntarily threw himself into the arms of the black goat's offspring. At this time, a voice came from inside the forest. "Hello, you finally met humans. Do you know how to get to London? Can you take us there?" Immediately after, a young man with a polite smile slowly walked out. Chapter 1032. This descendant didn't suddenly meet the mining team. She had locked onto this team a long time ago and hid on their way back to the city. She killed 2 of them, sucked one of the women dry, and then used her charm ability to keep the other one. There was a purpose in all of this. This descendant of the Black Goat wanted to absorb the memories of the Dark Residents and get some recent information about the city of London as much as possible. If possible, she would also disguise herself as a female resident and sneak into the city of London. This was all from a black goat's orders. However, someone who wasn't part of the plan intruded in front of her. Logically speaking, she had already figured out the surrounding situation and shouldn't have an outsider. Therefore, when the asking for directions appeared, the female body that grew on the surface of the body slightly tilted her head and was very puzzled. I should be speaking the common language of the hybrid demons, right? If it's not convenient for you to lead the way, can you point me in the direction of London? I can go there myself. When a young man continued to ask, the descendant of the black goat temporarily gave up the prey in her hand. She must kill the witnesses to prevent the situation here from being transmitted to London. For a sneak, the descendant's giant body retreated and slowly disappeared into the forest. The next second, the trees not far from the young man began to twist and finally turned into a dark purple tentacle that went straight for the young man's head. The young man's temper was not bad, but the opponent directly targeted his head, which directly aroused the anger in the young man's heart. He stretched out his left hand and collided with the tip of the tentacle with a dry mummy finger. Advanced magic, Anubis touch, the shadow of a dog's head that exuded the divinity of death, appeared behind Han Dong. Death spread from the tip of the finger, so that the tentacle directly turned into powder in the air. Death continued to spread along the tentacle until there was a painful howl from the depths of the darkness. When the descendant of the black goat reappeared, more than 1/6 of her body had completely withered. This was the effect of the divinity of Anubis. Even such a hybrid demon couldn't resist it. The female body in the middle of the flesh crazily scratched her body and was in extreme pain. Despicable attacker, you have been marked. I will completely crush your body and soul to feed my descendants with the combination of darkness. The mark had locked Han Dong with the tentacle just now. It was the same move as before. The black goat cub raised her thickest leg and stomped down heavily. Boom! The forest was trembling, and the ground was trampled into a 1-meter-deep crater. However, the young man was still standing on the spot, completely unharmed. How can you remove my mark? The child knew very well that at the last moment of her stomp, her connection with the youth was suddenly cut off. It's just an ordinary curse. What's so difficult about it? Count, come. Count was extremely excited. Now that he had achieved the atavistic body, he couldn't wait to try out his new abilities. Although he couldn't take over his body, it was still pretty cool to look at it from within. Full power. Han Dong was prepared to kill this cub in one move to prevent her from suddenly disappearing into stealth like just now. Whoosh! Red liquid splattered everywhere. A 4-meter-tall artificial blood moon appeared behind Han Dong. His entire right arm multiplied wildly and disorderly, turning into a primitive blood dog made up of hundreds of dog heads. Atavistic body. The black goat cub was frightened by the red scene and wanted to run away. All of a sudden, drip, a drop of pure water fell. Unknowingly, a woman with moist curly hair was already standing inside the meatball. Before the blood dog arrived, the woman with moist curly hair said softly, I heard that the black goat's meat is the most delicious and nutritious food in the world. Today, I finally have a chance to taste it. Although the black goat cub had the blood of the previous king flowing in her body, she was still a mature body. No matter how strong she was, she still hadn't touched the gate of truth. The gap between them was insurmountable. Space Devour, in the dark night, an abyss toad's mouth directly bit off the female body that represented the black goat cub on the meatball. Whoosh! Raindrops mixed with the stench of the cemetery fell in this area. The battle was over. Han Dong decisively recalled the blood dog back into his body. At the same time, he used language to warn Count, who was cursing. As expected, Meritus belongs to the extremely rare Void Toad. It's just that she's also proficient in water secret techniques. Since she wants it, I'll give it to her. Han Dong leaned on the side and waited for Meritus to finish eating. There was a feeling of eating bone powder. While sucking on the powder, she sucked on the bone marrow in the goat's leg. After eating this black goat meal, a purple light flowed through Meridus's body. Her energy was completely replenished. At the same time, because of this female supplement, Mary's body was dripping with water. Wow, as expected of a female treasure. It's so comfortable. Just when Mary was eager to ask Han Dong to help her get rid of the water that kept flowing out of her body. However, she found that Han Dong was no longer in front of her. Instead, he was leaning against a dark resident who was trembling all over. Under the hood, there was a male resident with only one big eye on his face. Thank you. Thank you for killing the black goat cub. Otherwise, she would have read my memories and might even invade London. Can you take us to London? You are. Even if his life was hanging by a thread, even if the person in front of him was suspected to have an atavistic body, this person still wanted to know the identity. He would rather commit suicide than let London have the risk of being invaded. Han Dong didn't answer verbally. Instead, he removed the camouflage effect, exposing the smooth braised egg head. As soon as the braised egg appeared, plop, the reverence from the most primitive state immediately squeezed out the fear and occupied the high ground, forcing this resident to kneel down with a plop. His head was almost buried in the ground. I'm just an ordinary messenger who just rushed over from Perugia, Mr. Rat's city. I'll take you to London and convey the news of your arrival to Mother immediately. No need. I have a special mission this time, so I don't need anyone to know my identity. You just need to take me to London. In addition, I have some questions to ask you on the way. Okay, I'll definitely take you to London. Let's leave here first. Recently, due to the incident of the participants, London has become very restless. Since there's a black goat cub here, there may be more cubs. They may follow the death aura of their companions and find their way here. Well, you lead the way. After doing all this, Han Dong immediately waved behind him. Croak, there was only a frog croak. Meridus leaped directly onto Han Dong's back. First, she felt a soft touch. Then, a wet and slippery tongue licked the side of Han Dong's face. What are you doing? Why is there so much water on your body? I ate a tonic, so I naturally need to release. Chapter 1033. You better come down and walk by yourself. Han Dong's words carried a strong pressure, forcing Meridus to slide down from his back. Before Mary could speak, Han Dong's slightly serious voice directly entered her head. This adventure trip is in my name to London. Miss Mary, if you do this group of dark residents will doubt my identity. Since you are traveling with me, you have to abandon the customs of Toad City and follow the customs of us humans or the dark residents of London. Then what should I do? Don't talk about mating all the time. At least on our side, mating is the ultimate ritual between the opposite sex. First, we need to start with the most basic friends. So troublesome? We Toad demons don't have so many troublesome things. As long as the opposite sex meets our eyes, we will first capture them to mate and then see if we need to develop them into ordinary friends. Han Dong was speechless for a while and added, Then don't you have a lot of friends? Bah, I don't have a single friend, okay? I only have a group of subordinates. Besides, you're the only one on my mating list. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Slowly change the concept in Toad City. I'll reluctantly listen to you this time. Mary had to digest the supplies alone. Such a black goat directly made Meridus reach 100% saturation state. Her whole body looked slippery. Under the lead of the miner, everyone quickly left the dark forest. In front of them was a vast basin area. Because of the removal of the dark forest, the basin area was no longer completely dark. These traces of light came from the nameless fog that covered the sky. Although it was eternal night state, the fog would also be mixed with some brilliance from the distant stars, which slightly lit up the earth. According to the rumors among the fiends, these brilliance from the distant galaxy represented the existence of an old king on the surface of the planet. It was also equivalent to the eyes of the old king, who was always monitoring the movements of the earth. This also made Han Dong and Meridus, who came out of the dark forest, have a feeling of dawn breaking. The basin in front of him had obvious traces of man-made modification. Han Dong and the others walked on a spacious stone path paved with rectangular black bricks. Iron street lamps stood on both sides of the road every 100 meters. The conical base had a patterned structure on the surface. The top was carved with the image of a commoner, mother of the night. It looked like a beautiful woman wearing a veil. Under the candlelight, some floating tentacles could be seen. A black candle stood in the hollow, spherical lampstand. Just like the color of the candle itself, the flame it produced was also black. This kind of candlelight didn't bring a warm yellow light, but a kind of pure, dark candlelight. It could disperse all light within a range of 20 meters, and then the effect would be halved every 10 meters. Because of the existence of the black street lamps, this black avenue was basically shrouded in absolute darkness. It was beneficial for the travel of the dark dwellers, the transportation of the miners, and some caravans. Also, Han Dong didn't waste anything either. Since the mining team had mined 4 carts of ore, Han Dong used his tentacles to lead the carts. Maybe it would be useful when they enter the city. What an interesting design. Although it's mainly dark, the design of this road, the style of the street lamps, the identity of these miners, and the style of the carts are similar to us humans. It seems like the city of Perugia under the command of the Grey Walker is similar. The Lord of Perugia loves human art, although he uses art as bait to lure other hybrid demons. But to a large extent, he still retains human relics and uses the art forms left behind by humans. It seems that the Grey Walker is very interested in humans. So much so that the hybrid demons under his command have a certain degree of connection with humans. At least the basic level is not much different. It will take a long time for the expeditionary army to come here. It should be enough time for me to understand. Han Dong turned to look at the miner beside him, who was standing respectfully beside him. What's your name? Finesse Darklight. Sir, just call me Lamp. I'm mainly responsible for creating and releasing darkness. I can provide a stable dark domain for the team members and strengthen their abilities. Interesting name. I've met opponents related to Lamp before. Can you roughly tell me about the current situation in London? Since the son of the Black Goat is here, there should be other hybrid demons wandering in the dark forest. Why is it like this? Han Dong might not understand the rules between the hybrid demons, but no matter how chaotic the relationship between the hybrid demons was when invaders from other worlds and planes who had almost caused the world to be destroyed came, everyone should stand on the same path instead of erupting into such internal strife. The Darklight miner asked in a low voice, Sir, you should know about the participant incident that happened in London, right? Well, I heard about it, so I rushed over from Perugia. However, I don't know the specific situation of the participant incident. The participants are dead. Their bodies are being studied. As for what they are being studied and what they're used for, a miner like me doesn't know. What? The participants failed the mission? Well, although Fate had specially customized a set of rules for them to use in London, this group of people died halfway for some reason. Not long after this group of outsiders died, some emissaries who were friendly on the surface but actually wanted to obtain the corpses rushed to London. After discovering their purpose, the mother personally ordered the expulsion of these emissaries with special purposes and set the city of London in a Class 3 lockdown state. Following that, there were also hybrid demons with bad intentions in the surrounding areas, such as the Dark Forest. They attacked miners, caravans, or intercepted some emissaries from London. I see. It seems that the problem seems to be with these corpses. Perhaps there is some information that you ordinary residents don't know. Sir, with your identity, you must be able to talk to the mother directly. When the time comes, it will naturally be clear. At this time, Han Dong suddenly opened his mouth, brimming with a smile that made even the darkness tremble. Ha ha! The laughter was like a nano-level virus that quickly invaded the miner's brain. Remember, I'm just an ordinary visitor. My identity needs to be kept absolutely secret. My will comes from the Grey Walker. Yes. In this way, Han Dong's identity would never be revealed from the miner's mouth. Once he had the thought of revealing the secret, even if it was induced by others, the laughter virus would immediately destroy the memory layer and destroy all the information. Some things must be investigated from a dark side. If the truth of the intruder incident is not clear, the ultimate goal of the expeditionary force will also be affected. Chapter 1034. They walk along the Black Road. Han Dong also found a lot of interesting things. Every hour, a candlemaker, wearing a gardener's top hat and a large windbreaker, floated on both sides of the road. There were hundreds of black candles hidden in their windbreakers. They were mainly responsible for checking the situation of the street lamps and filling the candles in time. At the same time, they were also the sheriffs of the Black Road. If they found an intruder similar to the Black Goat's offspring, they would send the information back to the main city through the street lamps. They were also powerful, mature creatures. Their appearance was similar to Aladdin's magic lamp. Only the upper body was wrapped in a windbreaker, and the lower body was in the form of a black fog. When they were 30 kilometers away from London, some small and medium-sized villages began to appear in the basin area. The Black Road that they were walking on also began to branch and road signs. The largest arrow naturally pointed to the front of the main road. On it was written in English and primitive hybrid demon characters, City of London. These villages are, the miner quickly explained, the villages outside London have a special meaning. The leaders and core villagers of each village are members of the Black Order. Without exception, there is a church building in each village. These villages are responsible for monitoring the periphery of the basin. They are also responsible for the development of the Black Order. Every qualified follower is a contribution to the City of London and will be rewarded by their mother. Followers? Does it mean that outsiders need to go to these villages first and become followers before entering the city? No. The preparatory followers are all worthless prisoners on death row in London. Now, London is in a level 3 state of lockdown, and all outsiders are closed. Only the hybrid demons directly under the Grey Walker are allowed to enter the city, and they need to go through a series of tests to enter the city. Oh, using prisoners on death row as preparatory followers? Interesting. Han Dong even wanted to go to the nearby villages to take a look. However, Han Dong would definitely have to expose his identity if he wanted to have in-depth contact with a cult that touched the foundation of London. I'd better familiarize myself with London first, and then go to the surrounding villages. The Black Order should be planned to the higher-ups of London. Using the characteristics of the magic eye, Han Dong looked at the nearest village. He immediately felt the village's anti-perception enchantment. Without breaking through the barrier, he could vaguely see the towering black church at the center of the village, as well as the strange shadows of the villagers. He could vaguely smell something ominous. Han Dong turned his gaze back to the Black Road. After a while, the outline of London gradually came into view. As the City of London was located at the center of the basin, the lowest elevation, Han Dong could barely see the outline of the city as he walked on the main road. It was a hexagonal city structure. Due to its closed state, the walls of London, which were tens of meters high, had been raised. This was somewhat similar to the main cities of humans. A large number of dark dwellers similar to lamp geniuses floated above the city walls. They wore a metal eye that could see far into the distance, monitoring the situation inside and outside the city. They were also holding guns that originated from humans. The metal barrels of the guns were filled with magic bullets that could lock onto targets in the dark. The body of the gun was also equipped with a precision scope, which allowed for automatic aiming under special circumstances. Not only that, but Han Dong could also vaguely see the strangeness of the city wall. It was not an all-metal city wall like the Holy City, nor was it a city wall made of some kind of special stone material. There's a strong sense of darkness surging from the city wall, and I can even feel the vitality. It's not a living building for biotechnology, but some kind of giant dark creature stuff inside the city wall, where these giant life forms are supporting the city wall. They continued to walk along the main road for an hour and came to the only city gate that allowed passage. The hybrid demon guards had already stared at them. This was a group of burly newborn demons wearing fanged masks. with shiny black tails on the ground. The young man on the side immediately handed over his miner's card. Phoenix Darklight, your team members aren't these two, right? Phoenix said anxiously, yes. My teammates and I encountered the Black Goat's offspring in the dark forest, and all 3 of my teammates died. Just as I was about to be killed, this gentleman from Perugia and his slaves killed the intruders and saved me. We must quickly send the information of the Black Goat's attempt to invade to Mother. Black Goat. When the guard heard these 3 words, his eyes flashed with shock. He immediately reported this matter to his companion and asked him to bring a message to the person in charge of this area. You came from Perugia? Han Dong had not opened the gate of truth, so with the disguise, he could make himself look like an adult. Yes, Perugia has been conquered by the human army, and Lord Ramstein has been killed. I'm a messenger from Perugia. Before the war broke out, I happened to be delivering a letter in the wetland area. When I heard that Perugia was conquered, I immediately brought my only maid and traveled thousands of miles here, hoping to settle down in London. First of all, thank you for saving our miners and bringing back the Black Rocks. However, London is in a critical period, so please bring along items or documents that can prove your identity. After verifying your identity, you can enter the city. That's not a problem. Han Dong went to Perugia's palace and saw the painting of the rat overlord and took down the signature. On the Black Road, there was also a messenger identity card with the overlord signature. It also exuded the artistic aura of Perugia. The guard took the identity card and handed it to the organization in charge of identity inspection at the city gate. Messenger from Perugia, your identity has been verified. Next, you and your slave need to go through a detailed physical inspection. If you want to settle down in London, you need to meet the relevant residence standards. After you pass the physical inspection and obtain temporary entry, you will naturally know what the standards are. Okay, the so-called physical inspection was done. It was done by an old woman with a black eye. She stuck close to the body to check the attributes of the tentacles and the origin of the aura. Great tentacles developed brain, mixed with the smell of rats. This is indeed a guy from Perugia. As for this slave, is he a toad demon? That's right. Mary is a hybrid demon slave that I spent a lot of money to buy from the wetland. She's also my only maid. Her spatial characteristics are helpful for my work as a messenger. Meritus had already suppressed her rank to a mature body. With a reasonable explanation given by Han Dong, she passed the inspection. The 2 of them each received a temporary identity card with the seal of Black Mother. After passing through the city gate, they entered the city of London made of darkness. The former empire where the sun never set was the final destination of the Holy City expedition. Chapter 1035. Sure enough, the city of London has basically preserved the original human buildings. Only some details have been modified. Moreover, the interior of the city of London is not absolute darkness. It deliberately retains the glow of distant galaxies through the nameless fog. It seems to be able to get in touch with the old kings in the distant galaxies in this way. In addition, the necessities in London seem to be the black candle. When they cross the city gate, the 2 also obtain a candle. It belonged to the same category as the candles burning in the street lamps on the Black Avenue. Once lit, it could release dark candlelight and swallow the light, shrouding oneself in darkness. On the street, the dark residents coming and going all carried candles, or held in the palm of their hands, or made the candle float in the air through their special ability, or gathered it over their shoulders through a tentacle. In this way, hiding oneself in absolute darkness not only gave them a sense of security, but also allowed them to keep in touch with their mother at all times. On the street, all kinds of shops, dark residents commuting to work, and carriages coming and going on the road. At one point, Han Dong wondered if he had walked into a human city dominated by darkness. However, as Han Dong guessed, the corresponding city in the Chaos Walker's hand was close to human habits to a certain extent. It was not good to ask such a question to the miners in the same field, as Han Dong's identity would be suspected. Just when Han Dong wanted to ask Mary, A dissatisfied voice came from his consciousness. It seems that you should have been stunned by this female toad. A knowledgeable hybrid demon scholar like this Count is here, and you still have to ask others? Let me clear up the confusion. Han Dong did not care about Count's words at all now. He just wanted to get the result as soon as possible. Tell me, make it clear. Among the old kings, there are two who have a closer relationship with humans due to their interests, personalities, and abilities. But the form of closeness is completely different. The first one is the corresponding yellow robe on the back of your right hand. He is also known as the Traveler. He has set up detailed and strict management dogmas, and almost everything is managed by his subordinates. He threw away the shackles of being a king and came to Earth as a traveler. He lurked in human society to live and find fun. Yellow robe. It's been a long time since he contacted me. I don't know what he's doing. However, although you have chosen me as your emissary. Yellow Robe's main contact was Mr. Black and White. During the Great Expedition, Mr. Black and White had chosen to stay in the Holy City, so the two might have contacted each other. What about the second one? Count's consciousness gently kicked the talent tree, causing a slight tremor in his brain. The second one is the Gray Walker that corresponds to your brain. He has the ability of perfect imitation. One of my favorite things to do is to use the combination of incarnation and perfect imitation to transform into an ordinary human in the form of an embryo and live a normal life in your society. I don't even remember my identity as the old king, and I can gain insights through living a human life. In the meantime, if he met some interesting humans along the way, he would also bring them to the Gray Abyss. There should be traces of him living in every stage of human society. Furthermore, there is a terrifying rumor that has yet to be confirmed. What? Rumor has it that in the previous generation of human civilization, to a certain extent, humans were able to completely escape from the enslavement of the hybrid demons because of the Gray Walker. Later, one of his true incarnations also lived in the king's city built by the human emperor. When sleeping at night, the Gray Walker would come to the emperor's bedroom and whisper in his ear. He would even instigate him directly in his dreams. In this way, he would evoke and induce endless desires. In the end, it led to the arrival of the world's cataclysm. Of course, this is just a rumor. The fundamental problem of the cataclysm still lies with you humans. It is also because of the Gray Walker's intimacy with humans that the hybrid demons, cities, and even some vassals under his command have human habits. However, most of the habits are just skin. I see. Han Dong memorized the information provided by Count and returned his vision to the front. Meritus stared at the unfamiliar city and seemed uncomfortable due to the invasion of darkness. She whispered, "Nicholas, don't you plan to use the relationship we established in the Destiny space? If we have the help of the 4 dark residents, it will be much easier for us to move around." No. My intuition tells me that there is something hidden in the city of London. We should try not to have too much contact with the locals. The 4 maids can be used when we need them. Oh, I'll listen to you. Han Dong and Meritus walked behind. The Phoenix Miner continued to be the guide and briefly introduced the basic knowledge of living in the city of London. The City of London uses night coins for transactions. This is a kind of currency extracted from the black rock or through special technology. The front and back are printed with a picture of Mother and the Palace of Westminster. Lord Messenger, if you don't have money, it will be very inconvenient for you to move around. This is our reward for this mining trip. If you don't have enough, Han Dong took a big bag of coins and nodded. It's enough. Lord, if you want to start from the bottom and obtain permanent residency, you need to go to the Black Hall or some firms certified by Mother. You can receive some missions there to earn night coins and also to increase your reputation. There are mining missions similar to ours, but you need to go through a mining qualification assessment in advance to confirm that you have the ability to identify and mine black rock. At the same time, there are some more dangerous missions, such as eliminating other hybrid demons who are trying to invade the City of London. Okay, I'll go take a look later. May I ask, does Mother live in the Palace of Westminster Parliament building? No, that's the gathering place of the state religion. Mother usually doesn't appear, but it is rumored that she is at the bottom of the River Thames. As for where she is, only the residents who have reached the atavistic body may know. However, because of the participant incident and the threat of the hybrid demons, Mother is rumored to be active in the city of London as an ordinary resident. Okay, I'll explore the other situations myself. You can go back and rest. Okay, haha. For some reason, the Phoenix miner couldn't help but laugh when they parted. Some dark matter formed a rather exaggerated smile at the corner of his mouth. The crazy laugh virus had taken root in his brain. Once there was any thought of revealing Han Dong's information, his brain would be instantly formatted. Nicholas, let's go find a place to live first. I want to take a bath. It's best to find a bathtub that is big enough to accommodate you, me, and Sister Nicole. Okay, at this moment, a pressure came. A burly man with a height of nearly 4 meters and wearing a black trench coat suddenly appeared behind them. At the same time, this burly man put his hand full of bandages into his trench coat, as if he wanted to take out something dangerous. Han Dong and Mary turned around at the same time and entered battle mode. Who knew? The burly man took out a piece of white paper from his trench coat. With the help of the black candlelight, words and pictures slowly appeared on the white paper. He asked with a friendly face, "Do you want to know about fitness and swimming?" Chapter 1036. Our fierce man of the night. Fitness club is very famous in this street. One look, and I can tell that you guys are new faces. Just one look, and I can tell that you guys need to gain muscle like me. Undercurrents are surging in London, and there are even some mantis demons outside the city who want to sneak in. How can you do it with your thin and weak bodies? If you encounter an enemy with anti-magic properties, a strong body is essential. As long as you join us, when you are in danger, please shout, "Fierce man of the night," loudly. As long as our instructor is nearby, we will do our best to ensure the safety of your students. After saying that, the man in the trench coat began to fiddle with his muscles. When he raised his head again, the 2 customers had already walked away. After a helpless sigh, he adjusted his tall hat to cover his gloomy face and continued to look for his target on the street. Han Dong had not walked far. An old man with 3 mouths on his face suddenly appeared. When he opened his mouth, he stuck out his tongue, and there was a black candle on it. In an instant, darkness enveloped Han Dong and his companion. An inexplicable sense of danger engulfed their entire bodies. The whisper of the mantis demon came from the old man's mouth. "Are you interested in moving bricks at the construction site? 1. 5 night coins per hour, daily payment. At the same time, a meal is included. You should be new vassals here. You must be in urgent need of money, right?" Han Dong did not respond at all. He pulled down the brim of his hat and left. The old man who stayed put his tongue back into his mouth. The candle on his tongue also moved to his eyes. He revealed an unhappy expression. Then he looked at the patrollers in the sky and could only look for another target. "Little brother, do you want to come in and rest? We allow you to try it out once." Han Dong had just left the old man when he was entangled by a group of dark and beautiful elves. This group of female elves also noticed the female slave beside Han Dong and quickly added, "We can cooperate with your slave and provide service together. Come on. We will definitely satisfy you." However, an aura of death overflowed from Han Dong's skin, forcing the elves to quickly let go. Seizing the opportunity, Han Dong pulled Meritus and quickly left the street. "Nicholas, didn't you just say that we could try it out? Why don't you give it a try? It seems very exciting." "Miss Mary, you should be able to tell that this group of people clearly wants to eat us all at once. Whether it was the swimming gym, the construction site, or this group of waiters, they all targeted new faces and newcomers like us. I can probably read 2 emotions. The first type was the more vile type. Almost all of them wanted to trick us into the building and kill us. Perhaps because of the special period, there is a certain loophole in the security of the City of London. Even if we, as foreign travelers without resident status, died, no one would care. The second type of emotion was impatience. This group of people seems to be in need of a sum of money in exchange for sufficient supplies to allow them to leave London and live for a long time. Their desire to leave London seems to be unusually urgent. Meritus looked surprised and even a little excited. Oh, the natives of the dark races who were born and raised here wanted to leave their homeland? I'm not a native toad, Demon NK. If it weren't for the Bufo's request, I wouldn't have taken the risk with you. After all, staying in the king's city, the probability of receiving the gift of the old king is higher, and the environment is more suitable for growth. Could it be that the recent events in London have made these residents feel uneasy and even afraid? It's very likely. Let's stay here first. There will be more trouble if we continue to walk. After passing by 2 streets, Han Dong stopped in front of a building with red walls and a black roof. A sign was hung on the protruding porch, Blackwater Hotel. The words were decorated with tentacles. The first floor of the hotel was designed for a bar. Every round table had a black candle lamp placed on it. Only crazy words could be heard coming from the darkness, but no one could see who was sitting there. Generally, the drunkards who came here would choose the table they wanted to join based on the conversation. They would talk freely with their drinking buddies in the dark. Inside the counter, a fat boss, whose face was covered in black because of the candle on his head, was busy. The magic eye opened. After confirming that there was no impatience in the boss's eyes, Han Dong was sure that he had found the right hotel. The price list of accommodation was hanging on the counter. Normal room, 1 night, coin standard room. 2 night, coin superior room. 4 night, coins Han Dong. Push the night coins to the boss with 4 fingers. Please give us a superior room. Identification. When Han Dong showed his temporary residence permit, the boss returned 2 coins. Temporary residents can only stay in a standard room. This is a rule from above. Okay. The boss opened his mouth and took out a stone tentacle key from his body and handed it over. The room at the end of the 3rd floor is yours. Just as Han Dong was bringing Mary upstairs, a voice rang out. The people at the table in the corner of the bar on the 1st floor suddenly stopped chatting. One of the drunkards had amazing hearing and happened to hear the conversation at the counter just now. Temporary residents, asking for the best room as soon as they open their mouths. Obviously, they are new here. Such a fat piece of meat actually came here. How lucky! 3 black shadows appeared in the corner and followed them upstairs. Just as they walked past the bar counter, they were stopped by a fat hand. Seeing this, the 3 of them became much more well-behaved and said in a calm tone, "Let's go." They said calmly, "Boss mans, we all know the rules here. But this is a special time. It's rare to see such rich newcomers. No one will investigate if they die here. How about we split the money after we get them?" Unexpectedly, the boss behind the bar counter still blocked their way. His deep voice echoed in their ears. "I'm worried that if the 3 of you die here, it will bring a lot of trouble. The coins you just handed me are stained with an aura I've never tasted before. It's very dangerous, at least above the mature body. It might even be an atavistic body." Atavistic? Hearing this term, the 3 drunkards were shocked and sobered up. They also knew that the boss of this hotel rarely joked, especially on such matters. They smiled awkwardly and quickly left. On the other side, Han Dong had already arrived at the door of the room at the end of the 3rd floor. When the tentacle key was inserted into the corresponding lock, it immediately activated. It automatically squirmed open the matching lock. Click. A standard room with a strong European atmosphere appeared in front of the 2 of them. It was even equipped with a separate bathroom. Mary quickly poked her head out to check the situation in the bathroom. The relatively retro wooden bathtub could barely fit 3 people. Not long after the 2 of them checked in, there was a knock on the door and a polite greeting. "Hello, guests. Today's lunch has been delivered. Please help yourself within 10 minutes. Huh? There's even a delivery service? When the door opened, there was only a dining car parked in front of the door. In addition to the exquisite meal, Han Dong also found something at the bottom of the plate that was given by the boss of the hotel, a detailed map of the city of London. Sure enough, the boss is a nice person. Let's wait until nightfall and take the shortest route to the Black Hall to see if there are any suitable missions. Chapter 10:37. In the guest room, a ghostly black flame was burning in the fireplace. Han Dong had a magic eye between his eyebrows, and he had long adapted to the way of life in the dark. He was writing in front of a matching table and chair. A letter was quickly written. He got up and went to the bathroom door, politely knocking on the glass door. "Mary, help me send a letter to the boss here." Creak, the bathroom door opened. Mary, with her whole body glowing with water, revealed half of her body. "Send it to the boss here?" The moment Mary took the letter, she was directly swept away by a miniature space and disappeared. In this kind of short-distance teleportation without space restrictions, it was as simple as breathing from Meritus. "What letter did you write to the boss?" "The boss of this hotel is probably at the level of a mature entity. He is stronger than the residents I saw along the way, and he is older. He should have lived in London for a long time. His eyes are different from the group of people on the street who want to leave London in a hurry. From the situation of the map given to us, we can trust him. I want to see if the boss is still hiring. If it's suitable, we can stay here and work. It's up to you. Anyway, I'm following you on an adventure. By the way, do you want to come in and take a bath? Nicole, and I can squeeze in and barely make room for you," Mary said as she hooked her finger. "It's better to have one person in the room. I showed my money on the first floor, and there may be drunkards who have their eyes on us. What are you afraid of? These trash, I can eat one at a time. Even if you get into trouble, you'll just expose your identity. Hurry up and take a bath. Let Sister Nicole rub your back with her tentacles. The softness of the suction cup is just right. It's so comfortable. You guys take a bath. TSK, that's boring." Han Dong came to the window alone and stared at the city of London shrouded in darkness. On the streets near the city gate, half of the people have eagerness, worry, and even fear in their eyes. They're eager to leave this city where they grew up. What are they afraid of? Isn't this the king-level city ruled by the old lower king, Mother? If there was any danger, his mother would be able to deal with it. Furthermore, the participant incident had already passed. Even if there were other hybrid demons that posed a threat, it would only be limited to outside the city. Could it be that Mother had issued a decree to oppress the low-level hybrid demons? Or was it something else? Also, I didn't know why, but ever since I arrived in London, I felt really uncomfortable. It wasn't because I was in a hybrid demon city. After all, I could easily adapt to life in Toad City. The uneasiness here is as if something is hiding in the depths of the darkness, and it's constantly spying on me. Magic eye, pupil seal, he concentrated on his vision. Gray, thin, and long tentacles drilled out of his eye sockets, weaving a hexagonal seal between his pupils. For a moment, his vision improved by another level. Han Dong could even see the flow of the darkness emitted by the street lamps. It was like ripples spreading out in all directions. They could also see some big rats crawling in the alleys. They were about the size of wild dogs and had hair like earthworms. There were also some London police officers who disguised themselves as ordinary people and suppressed their auras as they patrolled the streets. As his vision shifted, he suddenly caught a glimpse of something from the corner of his eye. What's that? In an extremely narrow alley that even a slightly larger rat would find difficult to crawl in, Han Dong vaguely caught a glimpse of a spiral, extremely exaggerated twisted arm. At the same time, it also glowed with a metallic luster. Moreover, just as Han Dong stared at this alley, the uneasiness in his heart grew stronger. Squeak, 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 tentacles that flowed with starlight grew out from between his calves. Just as Han Dong placed one hand on the windowsill and was about to go over to check the situation, something moist and soft suddenly stuck to his back. Hair that was still dripping with water also rested on Han Dong's shoulder. A slender tongue probed into Han Dong's ear. While creating an itch in the ear area, it asked in a low voice, "What are you doing? I asked you to take a bath, but you didn't come. Now you're standing here looking at the scenery. Is this darkness as beautiful as me?" After being provoked by Meritus, in the blink of an eye, The shadow in the alley had disappeared, and the uneasiness slowly subsided. "Mary, take me there." Han Dong stretched out his hand and pointed to the alley. His words were unusually firm. Drip, as a drop of clear water fell into the alley. The two appeared instantly. However, the alley in front of them was less than 20 centimeters wide. Han Dong, with his thin and weak body, could not squeeze in. Moreover, the dark aura contained here was indeed more intense than on the streets. However, the shadow that he had just caught a glimpse of had disappeared. In the depths of the alley that the demonic eye saw, there was nothing but dirty water and mutated insects. "Did you see anything? Why can't I feel anything?" Mary's head gently rested on Han Dong's shoulder. Her round eyes were full of doubts. "I just caught a glimpse of a strange dark life. Moreover, even if I used the demonic eye as the gear to the highest, I could only catch a glimpse of a small part of its characteristics. Deep spiral arms and metallic luster skin. Mary, do you know what species of dark dweller this is?" There's too little information. However, spiral-shaped fingers were still rare. You might be able to know if you ask the locals here. "Why do you care so much? Maybe it's just a high-level hybrid demon that happened to pass by." After all, such a big event has happened in London. It's normal to send some atavistic body to secretly patrol the streets. It's just intuition. Let's go back. Before Han Dong went to sleep, he specifically instructed Count to keep watch in the blood dog form. Under normal circumstances, Count would definitely grumble. But this time, he was very obedient. He directly separated a terrifying blood dog with sharp teeth and a big mouth and wandered around the room. From time to time, an eyeball would poke out of his mouth to observe the situation outside the window. After all, Count, as the coexisting consciousness in his body, also saw the shadow. Even Count, who had touched the door of truth and reached the atavistic body, felt the same sense of uneasiness. Entering the dream, perhaps under the guidance of the Bufo, he had touched the depths of the dreamlands, causing him to establish a connection with the dreamlands. Even if he fell asleep here, Han Dong's consciousness could still enter the dreamlands. Han Dong directly found a secluded place in the dreamlands and entered a dream within a dream. Compared to normal sleep, the efficiency was twice as high. The next morning, when Han Dong returned from the dreamlands, he was full of energy and vigor. Dong, dong, dong. However, a series of hurried knocks on the door made Han Dong frown. Before Han Dong could even open the door, a dark force directly broke through the door. Han Dong quickly sent a telepathic message to Meritus, who was sleeping in the bathroom, telling her not to act rashly and to let him handle it. The ones who broke the door and forced their way in were a group of London police detectives. They were dressed in black trench coats with the Mother of the Night seal on their chests. 2 candles stood on their left and right shoulders. "There is evidence that you and your companions murdered the person in charge of the Blackwater Hotel last night, Brother Kong, known Blackwater. Please come with us." "What?" Chapter 1038. The interrogation room was so dark that it felt boundless. Han Dong was restrained here alone. Below his calf, there was a layer of black liquid. This liquid could monitor the energy state in Han Dong's body and sense his emotional fluctuations, making it easier for the following interrogation. An agent with a trench coat and candles on his shoulders stood opposite him. The Mother of the Night emblem on his chest was particularly conspicuous. "Nicholas Wallen, a messenger from Perugia City. In the Black Forest, you killed a black goat descendant that was attacking a mining team and saved a miner. At 10:30, you passed the relevant identity check and obtained a temporary residence permit to enter the city. At 11 o'clock, you checked in at the Blackwater Hotel. Is that right?" "That's right." Han Dong nodded. "During this time, you wrote a letter to the hotel owner, Kong Gnome Blackwater. You hoped that Kong Gnome Blackwater could arrange a position for you and your servant in the hotel. Is that right?" "Yes." Han Dong nodded in affirmation. The agent continued, "Because you were a newcomer, Kong Gnome must have rejected your request for a job. Due to the rejection and perhaps some verbal conflict, you held a grudge. The next morning, at 0:54, you killed Kong Gnome Blackwater and attempted to hide his corpse in a narrow alley 50 meters away from the hotel. After saying that, the agent handed over a bloody letter and a photo. It was the letter that Han Dong asked Mary to hand to the boss. The blood on the letter was spread widely, and it was splattered on the letter. As for the photo the agent gave, it was a scene taken by the surveillance cameras on the street. The photo clearly showed Meritus wrapped in a bath towel and Han Dong standing at the end of the narrow street, whispering, as if they were discussing the choice of a place to dump the corpse. When he saw this, the uneasiness from last night quickly overflowed. Han Dong tried to ask as calmly as possible, "Do you have a picture of the crime scene? Can you show it to me?" The crime scene has been perfectly replicated through the black fog. As a suspect, you are allowed to inspect it. The investigator took out 2 special candles with serial numbers and lit them on the left and right sides of the interrogation room. When it was lit, immediately, a large amount of dark fog was released from the wick. Combined with the dark environment in the interrogation room, the crime scene was 100% restored. One of the candles corresponded to the bedroom where the innkeeper was killed. The other candle corresponded to the alley where the corpse was hidden. There are many traces of a fight. It seems that the innkeeper fought with the assailant for a long time until he was killed. Alley. The body of the innkeeper was separated into multiple trash bags and thrown randomly in the alley. When it was discovered, half of the body had already been eaten by rats and insects. Han Dong immediately collected all the details of the crime scene and transferred them to his brain for rapid processing. I believe that with your investigative skills, you should have found many suspicious points of the scene, right? At least 5 of the fighting marks in the room were faked. What is certain is that as a mature body, the innkeeper was killed in a short period of time without any resistance. As for the body that was thrown in the alley, it seemed like they wanted to destroy the traces, but in fact they wanted to be discovered more. There are many big rats in the alley next door. Their feeding speed is much faster than the small rats and insects here, right? Yet, they had to stuff it into this narrow alley. Their main purpose was to frame us. The investigator's expression didn't change much in the face of Han Dong's statement. He pointed at the photo of the 2 of them standing at the entrance of the alley. These are indeed suspicious points, but we can't rule out your suspicions. Why were you standing at the entrance of the alley when the crime happened when you were resting in the inn? Han Dong replied calmly. At that time, when I was resting by the window, I accidentally caught a glimpse of a strange shadow. Because it was a glimpse, I couldn't see it clearly. I probably saw a spiral-shaped arm and slightly metallic skin, which gave me a very uncomfortable feeling. As I said, I'm a messenger from Perugia. My only maid is a toad demon. I just happened to use her spatial ability to go to the entrance of the alley where the strange shadow was to check out the situation. In just a moment, the strange shadow was gone. When Han Dong was talking about the description of the strange shadow, the investigator's face suddenly turned cold. The investigator, who had been calm the whole time, suddenly shuddered. Even one of the candles on his shoulder went out. After a short pause, the investigator handed over a pen and paper. Can you roughly draw the strange shadow you saw? Since you're from Perugia, you should be very talented in drawing, right? No problem. Gray tentacles grew from Han Dong's fingers and directly copied the memory image in his head onto the white paper. Wait a moment. The investigator took the paper and left. He immediately met up with the investigator who interrogated Meritus and exchanged information. Both of their testimonies were the same, and there were no suspicious points. However, Meritus did not see any strange shadows. Moreover, when the 2 were being interrogated, they did not detect any emotions or energy fluctuations when they were lying. Immediately after, the investigator handed the drawing drawn by Han Dong to a department head above them and briefly explained the incident. What? A messenger who fled from Perugia could see the vortex? There are no problems with the identification, confession, and interrogation. This is indeed the first time this person came to London. He doesn't know what happened here, and he doesn't know about the vortex. We speculate that it was precisely because this person had glimpsed the vortex that he was framed by the other party. The department head, who was wearing a black mask and white gloves, crossed his fingers and held his chin. It seems reasonable, but it also doesn't. Shouldn't the most reasonable method be for the vortex to directly kill this person? Why would they choose to frame someone with a higher risk? The investigator stretched out a tentacle and scratched his cheek. Could it be that the vortex doesn't have the confidence to kill this messenger? The department head nodded. You're right. There's a high chance that they didn't have the confidence to kill the messenger, so they chose to frame him. After all, if a newcomer kills a local, once convicted, they will be sentenced to death and sent to the Church of Evernight to be dealt with. Let them go. Let them go just like that. This messenger from Perugia has the visual ability to see the vortex. Since he's still a blank piece of paper, why don't we recruit him to work for us? The vortex is the biggest problem we're facing at the moment, but the threat of this messenger himself hasn't been eliminated. I don't believe that he's just a lowly messenger. Since he can see the vortex, he's bound to be targeted in the opposite direction. We can use this to figure out this person's background and even use him as bait to catch the big fish in the vortex. Okay. Chapter 1039. The investigators with candles on their shoulders returned to the interrogation room where Han Dong was. When they spoke again, their tone was much calmer. Based on your and your companion's statements, combined with the clues we have collected so far, you are temporarily excluded as suspects. We apologize, and we will arrange a free month stay at another hotel for you. These are the room cards registering your name. Han Dong took the 2 metal room cards with a smile on his face. In his world, the police would never arrest people so lightly. Han Dong could roughly guess the purpose of this group of people. Sure enough, although there is a series of indirect evidence that we have a lot to do with the murder case. But this group of investigators should have been sure from the beginning that we did not kill the boss. They just brought us here to ask for some other information. Information about the spiral arm. Also, the tendency of ordinary London residents to want to leave. Could it be related to this incident? Thinking of this, Han Dong quickly asked, "Excuse me, is the main suspect the phantom with the spiral arm that I accidentally saw? The case is still under investigation, and you have no right to know. However, the phantom you saw is indeed very suspicious and is involved in many murders. If you see it next time, try to contact us directly. My number is on the back of the room card given to you. As long as you can provide useful information, we will also give you a certain reward. That's it. Please put on the hood. We will send you back." The black hood made of cloth was handed to Han Dong. It was the same for Han Dong when he came here. He was forced to wear the headgear by the agents. When the hood was put on, the consciousness would be affected by the darkness, unable to divert thoughts, and the sense of time and space would be severely limited. In the blink of an eye, when the hood was taken off, they had returned to the street corresponding to the Blackwater Hotel. Slap! A heavy slap landed on Han Dong's back, and Merites said unhappily, "You're the one who's being bullied. You have encountered this kind of situation, and you still don't want to reveal your identity? Once you take out your shiny, gray messenger identity, these guys will have to kneel down and look at you. It's easy to investigate anything. Fortunately, these guys didn't do anything to me, otherwise I wouldn't be able to tolerate it. Mary, since our adventure has already begun, listen to me. Last night, we seem to have encountered something incredible. It should be the one who killed the innkeeper. If I'm not wrong, the intelligence agency that the agent corresponds to is also investigating this guy to a large extent. Due to the special characteristics of the target, it's difficult to pinpoint his location." When the agents realized that I had seen this spiral arm, their initial calmness instantly disappeared and was replaced by surprise. This can indirectly prove that they knew from the beginning that the innkeeper's death was related to the spiral arm. They captured us just to see if we, as the people involved, know anything. Merites also reacted quickly. Both sides of its toad face swelled into a ball shape, and a different kind of killing intent emerged. According to this, these guys released us so quickly because they wanted to use us as bait. They said that the room card was given as compensation. There must be a surveillance camera in the room or the hotel, and they want to monitor our situation at all times. I'm so angry. With that, Mary wanted to snatch the room card. Unexpectedly, Han Dong quickly put away the room card. It's a waste not to stay in such a high-end hotel. Actually, it's quite good. I like being bait the most. Sandwiched between London's intelligence agency and a mysterious murderer. Maybe I can get benefits from both sides. Mary didn't have any doubts about Han Dong's choice. But there was one thing that she had always been puzzled about. Wait, there's still one thing I don't know. What is this spiral arm you speak of? I didn't see anything last night. You know, my toad eye isn't weak at all. I only caught a glimpse of an arm when my magic eye was fully opened. I didn't even see half of the body, clearly. The thing disappeared when I was slightly distracted. I guess it's because it's hard to see that the London agents couldn't catch the culprit. It's very likely that there's something deeper behind this incident. Now that you mention it, it sounds quite interesting. The things behind this may threaten our lives. Anyway, let's go to the hotel that the agent booked for us first. It's more insurance. Using the hotel name registered on the map and the room card, they arrived at the Royal Cavendish Hotel. It was located on the banks of the River Thames. Diagonally across, it was the most famous Elizabeth Tower in London. Just by standing in front of the building, one could feel a wave of classical British aura blowing in their faces. However, the surface of the white wall reflected a large number of black spots. The whole building was shrouded in a cloud of black fog. It gave Han Dong a very uncomfortable feeling, or a feeling of imprisonment. Based on the geographical location and the area it occupied, it should be one of the best hotels in London. Han Dong thought that it would be a group of celebrities staying there. However, when he stepped into the hotel, there was an inexplicable sense of desolation. In the spacious hall, not only was there no guest, but he also didn't see a waiter in charge of reception. His gaze swept across the hall, and he only found a waitress hovering in the air behind the counter as if she had hung herself. Her bulging eyes stared at Han Dong the whole time. The girl at the front desk is actually a mature, hybrid demon. Han Dong wasn't frightened by such a scene. Instead, he was quite excited and immediately went forward to show the room card. The hanging waitress's neck was strangled, and a hoarse voice squeezed out from her throat. In special times, your rooms are all planned to be on the top floor. You can naturally find it by looking at the number on the room card. Han Dong nodded and continued to lie on the counter, trying to chat with the waitress. According to the original plan, Han Dong planned to learn some secrets about London from the hotel owner, who knew that the boss would die in one night, and he would be implicated. Faced with this strange hotel and the only waitress in the hall, Han Dong had to cut in and get some information in advance. Otherwise, being too passive was not a good thing. "Excuse me, what do you mean by special times?" The girl at the front desk had no intention of answering Han Dong's question. "If it's not convenient to answer, come to my room later." Han Dong put a folded piece of white paper on the front desk and then went to the top floor with Mary. After waiting for a long time, the girl at the front desk was still curious and slowly unfolded the folded paper. There was only a smiling face drawn on the white paper. The smiling face combined with the tone of Han Dong's voice immediately had a deep impact on the girl at the front desk. Chapter 1040. Ding dong, the elevator carried the two to the top floor of the hotel. On the shell-pattern wall, there was a hollowed-out wall lamp every 2 meters. On both sides of the corridor paved with gray wool carpet, the guest rooms were arranged symmetrically and regularly. The top of the corridor also used some exquisite black wood with ribbons as decoration. Between the guest rooms, there were also arc-shaped glass displays with various dark-style artworks or Renaissance paintings hanging on the wall. At this moment, the door of the third room on the left slowly opened. An old resident, holding a candle with one hand and holding the wall with the other hand, slowly walked out. His eyes were full of fatigue and fear, and even his consciousness was in a trance. When the resident caught a glimpse of Han Dong, his fear escalated into fear, and he immediately returned to the room as if he had seen a ghost. Click, the continuous sound of locking came from the inside. That was, even if the resident only appeared in Han Dong's field of vision for less than a second, 90% of the characteristics of the resident had been memorized. Apart from some of the common characteristics of the dark residents, as well as the morbid performance caused by severe insomnia, the old man's right pinky showed a spiral shape. In comparison, it was far inferior to the spiral arm Han Dong saw last night. Whether it was the degree of spiral or the coverage of the spiral, it was completely inferior. Moreover, the old man didn't exude any danger or make Han Dong feel uneasy. However, Han Dong could roughly see that the old man might die in the near future with the Anubis divinity as perception of death. Is this spiral a disease? Han Donghui was filled with doubts as he borrowed the room card to open his room. As soon as he opened the door, crack, the sound of a straight line came from above. A black shadow suddenly fell. Because the neck was tied with a rope, the feet were just 1 centimeter off the ground. The one who appeared in the room in the manner of hanging was the receptionist. Such a strange way of making an entrance scared Merit so much that she almost spat out water. Han Dong, on the other hand, was used to it. After seeing that his spirit invasion was successful, he quickly entered the room. The first thing Han Dong did was to conduct a comprehensive inspection of the room. After confirming that there was no eavesdropping on the walls situation, Han Dong sat on a rocking chair in the corner and began to talk with the receptionist who was hanging in the middle of the room. Meritus also sat on one of Han Dong's thighs with great interest, wanting to hear the strange stories of London. What do you want to know? An extremely hoarse voice overflowed from the strangled neck. Isn't it hard for you to speak like this? Why don't you put down the rope and talk normally? This state is normal for us. The dark dwellers of London more or less have some eccentricities that help us concentrate. All right. Han Dong quickly accepted this setting and entered the Q&A session. What's your name? What unit do you belong to? Are you related to the agents? Irene Rope, born at 83 Basin Street in London. She used to work at a newspaper office, but she was forcefully transferred here because she was involved in the investigation of a maelstrom case. I don't have a direct relationship with the Intelligence Bureau, but their people often contact me to ask about the situation in the hotel. Han Dong touched his chin and continued to ask, "What do you mean by special period? Why is only the top floor of the hotel open, and the staff here seems to have been transferred away? What kind of people are the guests on the top floor?" When it came to this question, the receptionist hesitated for a moment. She seemed to have a defense line in her heart about this kind of question, but it was quickly broken by the crazy laughter. This special period refers to the maelstrom period. Now the city of London is shrouded in the shadow of the maelstrom. Especially the residents of the middle and lower levels are greatly affected, and they are in a constant state of panic. This Royal Cavendish Hotel had a total of more than 10 maelstrom incidents some time ago, so all the staff here have left. The hotel was ordered by the administrative department to stop operating and temporarily used for maelstrom-related personnel. Those who are housed on the top floor are the dark dwellers who have experienced the maelstrom incident but survived by accident. Their condition is very unstable. Most of them will die in a few days, and the rest will go missing. The receptionist's answer directly piqued Han Dong's interest. "Oh, can you tell me what you know about the maelstrom incident?" Rumor has it that the origin of the maelstrom incident is related to the participants who appeared in the city of London through the Gate of Destiny a few months ago. During that time, as ordinary residents, our movements were restricted. I was resting at home during that time, and I didn't see the so-called participants. Later, I learned from the newspaper that they were all dead. A few days later, a strange serial murder case appeared in the outskirts of the city of London. Even if a high-level agent was dispatched, it was difficult to find clues. Part of the body of the deceased would often be twisted into a spiral shape. The survivors involved would also die in an exaggerated spiral state within a few days, or leave a maelstrom mark in the room and completely disappear. Only a few high-level agents could occasionally catch a glimpse of the strange, spiral, twisted figure, but they couldn't find the murderer. due to the frequent occurrence of the maelstrom incident in the city, especially in densely populated residential areas. Now, many residents in the middle and lower levels are eager to leave the city of London. Hearing this, part of Han Dong's doubts in his heart were solved. Just as Han Dong had guessed, the incident he was involved in was related to the previous participant incident. But as part of his doubts were solved, new doubts were born. Han Dong asked, "Isn't this the city governed by the mother with a king-level title deed? With the power of the old king combined with the power of the title deed, you should be able to directly locate the murderer, right? Or send a mythical entity to deal with this matter. It shouldn't cause the entire city to panic, right? It's difficult for hybrid demons like us to get in touch with the mother. Rumor has it that the mother is carrying out an important ceremony and can't get away. Grand Duke Vlad has been commissioned to fully investigate the maelstrom incident, but there hasn't been much progress." Han Dong knew very well that the so-called Grand Duke Vlad must be a mythical entity. And the strength of a mythical entity, Han Dong, who had just cultivated in the underground stone temple of Mk, was very clear that it could definitely reach the level of a commander. It was strange that there wasn't much progress with such a level of existence investigating. Is it really impossible to find, or is it deliberately not looking? Just as Han Dong was lost in thought, squeak, 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 a sharp sound of metal cutting came from outside the door. There was a void of light and shadow floating between Han Dong's feet, and his whole body had come from the corner to the front door. Click! The door suddenly opened. There was nothing in the passage. Only a maelstrom mark was left on the guest room door. Chapter 1041. Just as Han Dong stared at the whirlpool mark engraved by some kind of metal weapon on the door, G-A-K-G-A-G, there was a subtle sound. It was similar to the sound of bones and meat being thrown into a stone mill and being forcefully ground. But it was relatively small, as if it was being ground in small and slow amounts. Listening carefully, he found that the source of the sound was the third room on the left from the elevator. It came from the old man's room just now. The girl at the front desk immediately understood what Han Dong meant and handed out a spare room card. However, she didn't want to go there. Even if she wasn't targeted by the whirlpool, there was a possibility of being infected if she came into contact with the victim. "Mary, let's go." Mary? Under normal circumstances, Meritus would follow him immediately. But after hearing about the whirlpool incident, Meritus was somewhat hesitant. After all, according to the information, even Grand Duke Vlad of London, mythical form, couldn't solve this problem. Moreover, Meritus rarely went to other places except for traveling back and forth between K and her own territory. She had never come into contact with the darkness of London. The darkness of London itself had made her a little uncomfortable, and now the strange events made her a little scared. She was squatting on the sofa in a toad's position, staring at Han Dong at the door with her big watery eyes. "Don't worry, I'm not used to it. You have to move slowly. Don't let us be attacked by the whirlpool. If something were to happen, we would have been attacked last night. It's relatively safe now. Hurry up and come over." Okay. Meritus didn't look afraid on the surface, but half of her body was always behind Han Dong, and the water secretion between her skin was increasing. When they came to the door of the room where the old man was, Mary poked her head out and gently put it on Han Dong's shoulder. The door card was successfully identified, and the black gas in the card slot pushed the lock button. When Han Dong slowly pushed open the door, the scene in front of him scared Meritus so much that she quickly covered her mouth. A large amount of water leaked out of her body, directly soaking Han Dong's back. This time, even Han Dong had a frown on his face. The scene in front of him was extremely strange. No wonder the hybrid demons were so terrified that they wanted to escape from their homeland. When he opened the door, he didn't see the old man. Instead, it was a room full of strange scenes. The bedding was deliberately folded into a regular spiral and placed in the middle of the bed. The walls of the room were also filled with irregular spiral patterns of various sizes. They were not metal carvings, but were dug out by the old man using his own fingernails. There were even some broken fingernails and blood residue left on them. Even the candles in the room were carved with spiral patterns. This kind of visual impact made Han Dong feel uncomfortable. He even had the thought of turning his head in his mind. Han Dong's head also rotated slightly by 15 degrees, and then this thought was immediately dispelled by his powerful mental strength. Meritus, who was following behind him, also turned her waist slightly. No wonder the receptionist didn't want to follow me. Just witnessing the scene will affect her mind. Creak, creak, creak. A slight, grinding sound came from the bathroom cubicle. Let's go and take a look. Slow down. Mary's body was almost completely stuck to Han Dong's back. The candlelight in the bathroom flickered slightly. The metal door lock had been forcibly twisted into a spiral by a strange force. Pushing the door open, Meritus had already closed her eyes in advance. Only Han Dong's eyes were firm, and he was prepared to deal with special situations. Creak, open the door. The scene in the bathroom was even more horrifying than some polluted images. In just a few dozen minutes, the old man had one finger in a spiral shape, and now all 10 fingers had changed. His body was like a collected tape, rolled into several circles and laid flat on the ground. Even his pupils had turned into whirlpools, and the tongue in his mouth was curled up like a snail's shell. Han Dong immediately dispelled the thought of turning and seriously looked at the old man in front of him. The divinity of death given by Anubis allowed Han Dong to perceive that this old man would die completely within a minute. It was very strange. One must know that the hybrid demons were very powerful. Even the newborn hybrid demons needed a regular night squad to deal with them. The stone mantis demon that had snuck into the holy city had only been killed by Cass after Han Dong and the others had joined forces to attack it. At present, with the blessing of darkness, these dark inhabitants of London should have a stronger regenerative ability. Just twisting casually like this, the body would not die. However, the old hybrid demon in front of him felt even weaker than a human. At this moment, an echo, like an echo through a spiral sound channel, came from the old man's mouth. I've failed. Hurry up and kill me. I don't want to be involved. Failed? What failed? Just when Han Dong wanted to ask more, he found that the old man's throat was further distorted and he could not speak. Han Dong immediately made a decision. Nicole used the most advanced deep-sea secret method to stabilize his vitality. Okay, 4 pink tentacles stretched out from Han Dong's back and began to build a formation. Soon, a magic similar to the structure of a water tank enveloped the old man's body. While constantly delivering vitality, it also brought out the overflowing matter from the old man's body through the seawater. What's going on? Nicole's deep-sea secret method was very efficient in healing and purification. However, the old man who was shrouded in seawater only slowed down the speed of death and had no intention of recovering at all. It only extended the time of death from 1 minute to 1 hour. The twisting of the body was still ongoing. He raised his hand. Black sand crystals formed a coffin, sealing the water tank inside. The coffin's shape was also more suitable for carrying. Han Dong had to find out something before the old man died. He had to find out what caused the old man to be in a spiral shape. Meritus, go outside the city. If we can't find out the nature of this thing, we might be in danger. Let's leave the hotel first. We can't use space teleportation here. Yes, let's go. In the current situation, Han Dong naturally opened his demon eye. Since he could see it once, he could definitely see it a second time. Just as Han Dong carried the coffin on his back and was about to pull Meritus out of this strange room, he glanced at the glass in the bathroom from the corner of his eyes. A strange twisted arm came out of the mirror. This time, because it was very close, Han Dong could see a part of the body. A part of the Een corpse's body had a large number of vortex patterns drawn on its surface. It was standing right beside Meritus. Chapter 1042. Count. Holy Sword. Strange things accumulated in his heart. When he caught a glimpse of the shadow again, Han Dong didn't hesitate at all. considering that the shadow was also biased towards darkness. Han Dong decisively took out the holy sword that could absolutely restrain evil things. Count, who had broken through the atavistic body, could also allow Han Dong to more freely control the power of the holy sword. Bursts of tingling pain came from the blood vessels, and the flat red blood cells slowly evolved into the shape of a sword. At the same time, Han Dong's right arm also transformed into the shape of a blood dog. A holy sword that was still dripping with blood appeared in the dog's mouth, corresponding to the palm of his hand. The teeth and tentacle-like tongue held the hilt of the sword. Miss Mary dodged. Han Dong turned around and slashed directly at the side of Mary's body. Boom! The darkness in the room, the walls of the bathroom, and the uneasiness in his heart were all cut off by this sword. Meritus, who didn't know that there was a person beside her, was shocked by Han Dong's sword. The evil warding strength emitted by the holy sword could threaten her life. Blood mist filled the room. Han Dong, who was holding the holy sword, focused all his attention on the magic eye, trying his best to search for suspicious people. The sword just now was still a little slow. When Han Dong's arm changed, the shadow moved, as if it had smelled the threat from the holy blood. It ran away. However, it can also prove that the holy sword can hurt the thing behind the vortex incident. Without waiting for Mary to ask the reason, Han Dong immediately took her and jumped out of the guest room window. Now that Han Dong wanted to rush out of the city at full speed, he didn't have the mood to take the elevator slowly. Nicholas, did you see anything? I just caught a glimpse of it by chance. The spiral arm was right beside you. I could only give you a quick sword. Meritus was so scared that her whole body was overflowing with water, and she constantly checked if any part of her body had turned into a vortex. Hurry to the city gate. We are ready to leave the city. After checking that she was fine, Mary didn't want to stay here any longer and quickly nodded. When they left the hotel, the space restriction was relaxed, and Mary quickly brought Han Dong to the city gate. To get out of the city, one had to pass through the city walls that were used to seal the city of London. Coincidentally, there was an agent at the city gate wearing a trench coat with the insignia of Mother of the Night on his chest. Let's leave the city for half an hour and come back immediately. My body still can't adapt to the darkness in London. There shouldn't be any restrictions that say we can't leave the city, right? The investigator used an internal network to ask for instructions from the higher-ups. You are still considered suspects and are not allowed to leave London without permission. However, the minister has given you an hour to move around outside the city. If you do not return to the city within an hour, you will be listed as a wanted criminal in London. You will not be accepted by any allied hybrid demon city-states. 1 hour is enough. Thank you. The moment he left the city, he used Mary's space travel ability to leave the London basin and re-entered the dark forest. He found a tree hole that was just big enough to accommodate 2 people and quickly hid inside. 2 completely different land deeds appeared in Han Dong's hands. Mary stared at a land deed with a yellow seal and immediately showed a surprised expression. You actually have a mobile land deed. Mary was surprised. Although she used to be the owner and lord of a medium-sized land deed, and although it was much larger in size, it was still better to have a mobile land deed. As for the other one, it was given to Han Dong by Toad, which was also Meritus's original medium-sized land deed. Miss Mary, your land deed, can I merge it? Is that okay? He thought that Mary would care a lot, but who knew that her eyes were full of indifference? She didn't care about the land deed at all. Compared to staying in Toad Palace alone, it was more fun to travel with Nicholas. They encountered very interesting things at the beginning of the world trip. Although it was a little scary, it made Meritus feel that life was more colorful. Do the parameters of the land deed match? My Toad Palace's structure is very special. It mainly has water, cave, and palace structure. It shouldn't be a problem. Han Dong had already let the fishermen at the port stay in Scarlet Manor in advance. After such a long time, he had also brought the characteristics of water to the backyard. As for the cave, because of the construction of a laboratory, many connected caves were dug in the underground area of Scarlet Manor. as Han Dong stacked the two land deeds together. The surface of the mobile land deed immediately formed a mouth like an abyss and directly ate the corresponding medium-sized land deed of Toad Palace. The whole thing was undergoing a huge change. Han Dong pulled Meritus and quickly entered the mobile land deed. The scene in the land deed was like the structure of the dream world of the Dream Master in Inception. The scale of the medium-sized land deed was still very different from the small-scale land deed. Comparing Perugia City and Stuart Manor, the difference was obvious, due to the effect of same-source devouring. After devouring Toad Palace, there were two main areas that changed in Scarlet Manor. 1. The pond area in the backyard where the fishermen lived. 2. The underground laboratory area managed by Dr. Swollen. The pond in the backyard could be seen expanding into a huge lake that far exceeded the area of the front yard with the naked eye. The fishermen were all excited. The depth, complexity, and width of the underground area had all increased, and more laboratories could be built. Welcome home, Lord. When the blood descendants, crowmen, and fishermen felt Han Dong's aura, they all came forward to welcome him. At the same time, they also showed fear towards Meritus, who was beside Han Dong. So many species. It was the first time Meritus had seen such a diverse manor. I'll explain later. That old man can't hold on for long. I left the city this time to decipher the vortex through the old man's living body. Follow me. Han Dong immediately went to the underground core laboratory area. Dr. Swollen, Professor West. I have a living mantis demon that needs to be analyzed and dealt with urgently. Lord, this is... When Dr. Swollen saw Meritus, he was so scared that his brain trembled. After all, the deterrence brought by the atavistic body was still very strong. Miss Mary from K is now my friend. Don't worry. Briefly explain the situation. We are in London. Han Dong summarized the vortex incident in the most concise words. After hearing the whole story, Dr. Swollen was so scared that the gears in his brain started to spin rapidly. Even you and Miss Mary were affected. Will we be directly infected? I'm here. Don't worry. And this is not London. The threat basically doesn't exist. Okay, let's take a look at the body first. When the coffin was removed, Dr. Swollen was so scared that he quickly adjusted his glasses. Professor West also had a trace of fear in his eyes. However, interest soon took over. It was the first time they had seen such an experimental subject. Dr. Swollen first chose to open the skull. Before the subject died, he cut out a piece of brain tissue for analysis. Active brain cells could often give a deep answer. However, as the skull was cut open, the scene inside made Dr. Swollen, the brain expert, stunned. It was also the first time he had seen such an exaggerated scene. The brain in the cranial cavity appeared in front of everyone in the form of a snail shell. The snail shell-like brain was even attached to the wall of the cranial cavity, slowly turning. It showed a high activity, several times more active than a normal person's brain. Chapter 1043. When they saw this kind of brain structure, Professor Swollen and Professor West both felt a wave of discomfort coming from their brains. It was as if their brains had also been slightly deflected, tugging at their cranial nerves, making them feel very uncomfortable. However, both of them were geniuses in the brain. West directly injected a green fluorescent needle into the back of his head, and his whole body immediately relaxed, revealing a somewhat shrunken expression. Professor Swollen was even more direct. He directly inserted his palm into the brain and manually adjusted it. Compared to the initial shock of seeing the vortex old man, he was now more interested. He could not wait to conduct in-depth research. Professor Swollen immediately cut out a piece of brain tissue and gave it to his assistant beside him, the head nurse from Ghost Stories. After following Professor Swollen for so many years, the head nurse was also proficient in various experimental devices, and simple brain tissue analysis was not a problem. On the other side of the corpse, Professor Swollen and West were going to conduct a joint autopsy. Due to the strangeness and danger of this incident, as well as Lord Nicholas' urgent need for answers about the vortex, As the butler of Stuart Manor and the sub-brain of Lord Nicholas, Professor Swollen naturally had to act as he should and get the answer as soon as possible. Swollen brain, a certain kind of brain domain, was fully activated. The gears embedded in the brain began to rotate regularly. The brain that was originally half exposed outside the skull rapidly expanded, slowly revealing Professor Swollen's true appearance. 1 time, 2 times, 5 times, and even 10 times. The brain's expansion slowly reached the point where the body could no longer support it. At this time, the doctor's exclusive chair crawled out from the depths of the laboratory. Ghoul chair, it was pieced together by several strong ghouls, combined with the biotechnology of Stuart Manor. Their spines were connected to the same brain through neurosurgery, a controlling brain that was absolutely controlled by the doctor. As long as the doctor's thoughts were transmitted, the ghoul chair would immediately crawl over. In order to carry the doctor's true appearance, a brain-type hybrid demon like the doctor was a rare species. The more he grew, the bigger his head would be. Usually, the doctor used some kind of method to suppress his head to normal size. Once he encountered a problem that required thinking, or if he encountered an invader that could threaten the safety of the manor, his body would appear. The brain, even with 8 strong ghoul legs supporting it. When the doctor's body sat on the chair, the 8 legs were still slightly bent. The brain corresponding to the main body was about 3 meters in diameter and glowed with a 5-colored luster. Several eyes formed on the surface of the brain, replacing the skull that was pressed down by the brain and performing an efficient visual function. The tentacles that floated on the surface of the brain intertwined to form a sensitive and delicate arm. It could split into more functional fingers according to the surgical situation in front of it. Staring at the posture of the swollen doctor, Meritus asked curiously, "Old King Metal? Brain Domain Mantis? Nicholas, where did you find such an excellent subordinate?" "This is the assistant I got when I got the first low-level land deed." "Not bad, right?" "The doctor is my sub-brain. Most of my experimental projects are handed over to him, and he has a lot of potential. When he first came under my command, he wasn't even at the hybrid demon level. The underground laboratory you see is basically his masterpiece. I just provide the site, technical support, and material supply." Mary looked around the core experiment area. There were many biological containers arranged neatly on the wall, and they contained many different ghouls. Some were born with wings. Some of them were exceptionally strong. Some of their body structures were replaced by steam mechanical systems. Some of them had even completely surpassed the category of ghouls. "This is your army? No wonder you dare to break into my backyard and try to start a land deed war with me. These shouldn't be completely hybrid demon technology, right?" "Well, these are the products I obtained by combining hybrid demon technology, Holy City technology, and my own ideas. As long as they can be trained on a large scale, they will definitely play a decisive role in a large-scale battle in the future. However, let's deal with the problem at hand first." Han Dong stared at the autopsy table with full attention. Once a dangerous situation appeared during the autopsy, Han Dong would immediately suppress it with the holy blood. The impact of the vortex on the individual was far beyond everyone's imagination. The scene inside the body was even more exaggerated than outside the body. The spiral-shaped bones and the spiral-distributed blood vessels attached to the bones. The organs in the body were also twisted together, especially the large intestine area, which showed a regular spiral shape. There was no non-vortex area on the old man's body. At this moment, the swollen doctor untied the spiral-wrapped heart, lungs, esophagus, and stomach. After cutting open the black heart slightly, he found the hybrid demon core that supported the old man. Once it was taken out, the old man, as a hybrid demon, would truly die. In the current situation, death might be a kind of relief for this hybrid demon. As Han Dong nodded, the swollen doctor performed a perfect cut and took out the core. Without the support of the core, his physical body turned into a true vortex in a few seconds, sucking himself into it and disappearing in front of everyone. This was the first time everyone had seen such a scene. However, The swollen doctor's gaze was still fixed on the core crystal. The core crystal, which should have been a polyhedron, also had spiral patterns on its surface. It didn't seem to be carved, but formed naturally. The energy inside the crystal was also like a stirred liquid in a vortex shape. That's the problem. The reason why the Dark Dweller's body turned into a spiral is in the crystal. It should be a substance that has a specific effect on hybrid demons and has invaded the core crystal. There's a problem inside the core crystal. The deep-sea secret technique you used is naturally useless. Death is only a matter of time. Now, we need to further examine and try to extract the substance inside. If we can extract it and analyze it, we might be able to get the answer you want. Specifically targeted at hybrid demons? Doctor, how long will it take to extract this thing? We don't know what the substance inside the crystal is. We need to use many methods to investigate. Sir, give me 3 days. Why don't you stay in the manor and rest? I only have 1 hour to leave the city. You still want to go back to that dangerous place? Since this thing can directly touch the core crystal, it might even be able to invade your talent tree. I have to go back. There are still some things that I haven't found out. Not only do I need to know the nature of the vortex, I also need to know the fundamental problem involved. When you find out the results, immediately send me a message through the land deed. Okay, please wait a moment. The analysis of the brain tissue should be out soon. Maybe we can get some useful memory fragments. Okay. Chapter 1044. Just as the doctor mentioned the problem of the brain slice, the head nurse's scream came from the analysis room not far away. When Han Dong rushed over, he found that the head nurse's right arm had already turned into a spiral. However, it didn't show any symptoms of infection, unlike the old man's continuous spiral. Her expression, thinking, and all other physical signs were normal. It was just a simple twist to the right arm. Is it really targeted at the hybrid demons? The head nurse is a creature of destiny. There's no such thing as a hybrid demon core crystal, and the spiral material can't invade the core. Han Dong immediately stepped forward and stabilized the head nurse. The head nurse pointed at the solution in the conical bottle with a terrified expression. It was the specially processed and diluted brain slice solution. I accidentally touched a drop just now, and my right hand became like this. Fortunately, the memory diluent has been completed. As long as it is fed to a ghoul with a functioning brain, it will be able to obtain part of the old man's memories. Ghouls won't do. Leave it to me. Seeing Han Dong take the solution, Professor Swollen, who had followed closely behind, was shocked. He quickly stopped Han Dong. Sir, do you want to drink it yourself? This thing is too risky. Your talent tree is essentially the same type of material as our hybrid demon core. It will be troublesome if similar symptoms occur. If the diluted solution made from the brain of an ordinary infected person can affect me, then I will definitely die on this London trip. Ordinary ghouls will definitely not be able to withstand it. Such a precious clue cannot be wasted. Let me do it. The reason why Han Dong wanted to take a look at the old man's memories, it was because when he found the twisted old man in the guest room, he said, I failed. This made Han Dong very concerned about what exactly had failed. Han Dong suspected that the old man had participated in a certain ritual or even taken the initiative to approach the vortex, resulting in such an outcome. The specific answer could only be found in his memories. The doctor scratched his brain and said seriously, All right, I will monitor your condition at all times. At the same time, I will help you integrate the memory fragments so that you can smoothly read the memories. After all, this is the first time I have seen such a whirlpool-shaped brain. There's a high chance that the reading will fail. All right, then, sir, hurry up and sleep. Come up here. Where do you want me to sleep? Han Dong stared at the lump of brain on the chair. He did not quite understand what the professor meant. The swollen brain caved in from the center, forming a groove that could accommodate Han Dong's body. Its shape was similar to an MRI machine commonly seen in movies. Han Dong immediately lay flat and let the tentacles pull him into the soft and warm groove of his brain. Not to mention, it was soft and warm to sleep in. Gulp, gulp, he swallowed the diluted liquid. During the process of swallowing, Han Dong could clearly feel a certain spiral reaction between his throat and esophagus. Soon, the black whirlpool body adapted to it. Everything was normal in Han Dong's body. The essence of the diluted liquid was digested in the small intestine and flowed into the brain along the blood vessels. On Dr. Swollen's side, he also connected dozens of synapses to the surface of Han Dong's brain to help sort out and reconstruct the memory pieces. Under the joint efforts of the two brain experts, the distorted, chaotic, and disorderly memory fragments were neatly arranged in his mind. Han Dong's consciousness was immediately brought into a strange memory. Whoa. In the blink of an eye, the dark streets of London appeared before his eyes. A cold wind blew. With the connection of the memory, the old man's relevant information was also transmitted to Han Dong. The old man's name was Voight Big Hand. He had a palm that was slightly larger than the other hybrid demons. This also allowed him to successfully apply for a job sorting or when he was young. In the world of hybrid demons, strength was still the most important thing. Voight, who had always been a newborn hybrid demon, had worked in a mining company for hundreds of years without changing his job. He had long become the ultimate existence of social animals. Currently, he had just finished work at a mining company and was walking home. At Voight's age, there was no possibility of growth. The rest of his life was basically fixed. He would work in a mining company until he died. The fixed and inflexible life pattern made him lose all enthusiasm for life. Even if a series of strange whirlpool incidents had occurred in London recently, he did not seem to care. In his opinion, if he was involved in the incident and died, he would receive more attention and add some color to his already gray life at the end. It was also because of the whirlpool incident that the recent demand for ores was extremely high. Voight worked overtime until late at night today, and he was particularly unlucky. Perhaps it was because of his old age. When he was sorting ores, he was momentarily absent-minded and rolled his little finger into a hybrid demon device. This caused the entire little finger to be irreparably bent, curled back, and formed a circle. However, not only did the company not compensate him, but they also scolded him for the delay in work. This unexpected situation also intensified his world weariness. Just as he covered his curled little finger and walked home with his head down, he suddenly felt a chill. He looked up and found that there was no one on the street in the middle of the night. At the same time, his curled little finger seemed to be pulled by an invisible force and brought him to a dark alley. First, he caught a glimpse of a black whirlpool. When he took a closer look, a bookseller appeared in the alley. In front of him were a few old strange books with spiral patterns printed on the cover. In the blink of an eye, Voight was already standing in front of the bookstall. Even though the number of booksellers had not decreased, he could vaguely feel that the book in front of him might change the rest of his life. "How much is this book?" When he asked for the price, the bookseller stretched out a deep spiral arm from under his sleeve, pointed at Voight's little finger, and asked for an exchange. As long as it could change the rest of Voight's life, he was not even afraid of death. A mere little finger. Crack! He snapped it on the spot and handed over the curled little finger. The bookseller who received the curled finger faintly showed a strange smile on his dark face. The corners of his mouth curled 180 degrees. After paying the fee, Voight finally fixed his eyes on a dark curled book and was about to leave with the book. At this moment, the strange thing that Dr. Swollen feared happened. Be reasonable. As a memory reader, Han Dong observed all of this from the perspective of a bystander. Just like a person reading a comic book, the characters in the book could not notice the reader. But just as Voight was about to leave, a spiral arm suddenly rested on his shoulder, and a low voice came from the whirlpool-like mouth. "There's actually a third party. Who are you?" Hearing this, Han Dong was shocked. At this critical moment, Dr. Swollen, who was monitoring everything from the outside, forcibly cut off the memory connection. Han Dong, who had his swollen brain slowly removed, looked like he had just come out of sauna. His entire body emitted visible heat. His talent tree was unaffected. Han Dong's eyes were filled with both fear and interest. I'm just a bystander in the memory. How did he notice my existence? What is the guy behind the whirlpool? Chapter 1045. Sir, I'm afraid the opponent this time is more difficult to deal with than Perugia's rats. You pry into the memory from the perspective of a bystander, but you were discovered, and it can directly affect your physical state. This is too scary. It is indeed scary, but it may also be a problem with the memory defense line. For those who were eroded by the vortex may have set up a defense line in their brain to prevent others from prying into their memory. I can read so much memory information because of the dilution of the brain solution in advance and the memory integration provided by you, Doctor. Although it's a pity that I can't see the content in the book, this memory prying has roughly figured out the direction of the investigation. Han Dong, who had just escaped from a thrilling situation, not only did he not have any fear or worry, but instead showed a crazy smile on his face. When Han Dong just got out of the swollen brain, his whole body was emitting hot steam. Meritus also immediately stuck to him. She pressed her wet and soft body against Han Dong's back and physically cooled him down. Her round eyes flashed with some worry. This scene made the swollen brain of the doctor glowing. He didn't expect that the atavistic body could be taken down by Han Dong. Suddenly, Han Dong's back figure became much taller. It's almost time. I have to return to London. Doctor, find out what the substance that invaded the crystal nucleus is as soon as possible. I will come to the manor again in 3 days. Just when Han Dong was about to leave, a long-lost, tingling sensation came from the back of his right hand. At the same time, a Chromin elder came to the laboratory through a secret passage and said with a panicked expression, "My lord, there is a guest in the manor. He wants to see you." Without the permission of the lord, Han Dong, no outsider was allowed to set foot in the sealed, mobile deed, but the guest in front of him was different. Han Dong said with a dignified look, "All of you stay down there. Don't make any sound without my order." Meritus looked curious. "Who is here?" Han Dong didn't answer, but gently raised his right hand. The yellow seal engraved in the sole was now appearing on the back of his hand, emitting a faint yellow light. Mary was so scared that her whole body trembled, and a large amount of water had already overflowed from her body. Scarlet Manor, the former Count's Theater area. When Han Dong arrived here, he immediately felt a similar sense of oppression. At the same time, he had a very bad feeling. Although it had been a long time since the last time Yellow Robe appeared, every time he came, he would instigate Han Dong to do some dangerous things. He followed Han Dong into the theater. The scene before his eyes was different from before. The yellow-robed man who had appeared in the holy city was only in the form of a human. Now, the entire stage of the theater was occupied by the white tentacles that grew out from the yellow-robed man's body, wriggling and wriggling. The yellow robe was supported by several core tentacles, and it floated in midair. The pressure was extremely strong, and it was mainly aimed at the soul. If one was not careful, one soul would be sucked out and devoured by the rolling white tentacles. Yellow Robe Sr., long time no see. What responded Han Dong was the mouth at the end of each white tentacle. Their voices overlapped and echoed in the current space. Some time ago, I was busy publishing books in the Holy City. The sales were quite good, and I was very satisfied. I happened to be relatively free recently, and I accidentally found you at the turning point, so I came to take a look. Turning point? Yellow Robe Sr. did not answer Han Dong's question. Instead, he said to himself, "You should have some information in your hands, right? However, if you want to investigate further, there will be danger." The whirlpool incident that happened in London was not an accident. It was the beginning of the conspiracy that we had long expected. Although I personally don't like to get into trouble, since I've been free recently, and you happen to be here, it doesn't matter if there is a little trouble. Since you are my messenger, I will make a request of you. Senior, please say it. I want you to continue to explore in London. No matter what kind of danger you find in the process of exploration, or the threat from myths or even kings, or the pressure from the world, you still have to continue. When you encounter a high-level threat that you can't resist, I will secretly help. During this time, I plan to personally write a thriller novel. This novel will be based on your experience in London as a reference. Don't let me down. Okay, Han Dong originally intended to explore further. After all, London was the final destination of the Expeditionary Army. However, Yellow Robe Sr.'s words made his heart waver. At this moment, Yellow Robe Sr.'s gaze seemed to be looking at Han Dong's lower body. Your legs are pretty good? Was it that toad who guided you? Yes. The Bufo only gave me a copy of the leg. Very good. The more escape skills you have, the better it is for you. So be it. I will temporarily stay in your manor for this period of time. Let these little things not care about me. I don't need anyone to serve me. Okay. Hearing that Yellow Robe Sr. was temporarily staying in the manor, Han Dong breathed a sigh of relief. If he really encountered a big incident, he could directly use the land deed. The probability of being cheated would be correspondingly reduced. Before leaving, Han Dong suddenly thought of something and tried to ask, "Senior, is the situation in the Holy City okay? My book is being published in the Holy City. Naturally, it is okay. However, there are some interesting things happening in the city. When you go back, you will naturally know. In short, the ratio of good things to bad things is higher." Okay. After Han Dong left, he immediately gathered all the mature hybrid demons in the manor and held a short meeting for a few minutes. He told them that Yellow Robe Sr. would stay in the manor for this period of time. He would mainly be active in the theater and the feudal lord's office. They were not to disturb him. The powerful hybrid demons were so scared that they were sweating profusely. In their eyes, Yellow Robe Sr. only needed to move his tentacles and they would be turned into ashes. After explaining everything, Han Dong immediately returned to London with Meritus. The latter kept asking questions about Yellow Robe Sr. along the way. After all, Mary had never seen an existence whose level was higher than Bufo. It's nothing. When I met him, the pressure was even less than Bufo. Sometimes, it even felt like I was talking to an ordinary person. How about I bring you with me next time? Yellow Robe Sr. will stay in the depths of the manor for this period of time. The next time I go to the doctor to get the analysis results, I can also go and meet him. Unexpectedly, Meritus, who had always been strong, kept shaking her head at this moment. She was afraid that if she went, she would be so scared that water would be all over the ground. This might offend the old king. I'm not going. Wait until I become a mythical body. By the way, what are we going to do now? Let's go back to the hotel first. When night comes, we will go out to search. Search for what? The bookseller. Chapter 1046. When they returned to the hotel. As soon as Han Dong entered the door, the girl who hung herself at the front desk immediately turned her gloomy face and stared at him. Han Dong was only a guest here, not a prisoner. Entry and exit were not restricted. But when he passed by the front desk, the girl, who was temporarily in charge, asked in a low voice, "The old man who lived in room 3106 seemed to have disappeared after you entered the room. What happened?" Han Dong told the girl the story he had already made up, and with the invasiveness of the mad laughter mind, he told the girl. To put it simply, when they arrived at the room, the old man had already spiraled, and his abdomen turned into a whirlpool that sucked him in and disappeared. Han Dong was worried that he would be affected by the whirlpool, so he used the free physical examination provided by the city gate to do a full-body check. After confirming that he was not affected, he left for a while. Okay. The girl confirmed the authenticity of the story. She was assigned to work here by the detectives, so she naturally had to report the disappearance of a guest. However, she was calm about the disappearance of the old man. Obviously, she already knew that the old man who was affected by the whirlpool would disappear sooner or later. Back to the room on the top floor. Mary was still the same. She soaked her body in the bathtub as soon as possible. For the convenience of communication, Han Dong sat on the side of the bathtub. How do you plan to investigate? Through the residents on the top floor of the hotel who are related to the whirlpool? No. I found the method to touch the whirlpool in the old man's memory. After all, the city of London imitates a human city, and there is a distinction between day and night. Day, darkness covers the entire city, and all the dark street lights are turned on. The city of London's darkness level is maintained above 80%. Night, the street lights are turned off, and the darkness is removed, allowing the light of the distant galaxy to shine through the fog and into the city. This kind of light allows the dark residents to stay at home and rest and regularize their work and rest schedule. Of course, even so, the brightest night is a little darker than the human concept of night. Can you confirm what level the other party is at? I don't know, but it is definitely an existence that can touch the door of truth. For tonight's operation, Mary, you will stay in my body as a battery. After all, I still haven't confirmed what the substance that caused the spiral transformation is, and I don't know how to remove it. Mary, if you get infected, you might be in danger too. You're going alone? After all, according to the old man's memories, he was also in trouble alone. If you act alone, you will have a higher chance of encountering a bookseller. How confident are you? I don't know. However, even if I can't defeat him, I still have the confidence to escape. The probability of dying is very, very small. At this point, Meritus, who was sleeping in the bathtub, turned her body to the side. Her two shiny and smooth fat legs were lifted from the bathtub and directly propped up on Han Dong's body. Since there's a possibility of death, why don't we have a mating ceremony? Let me lay my eggs here. Even if we die, at least our descendants can continue to live on. Han Dong's heart did not waver at all as he looked at the pair of long, smooth legs dangling in front of him. Didn't I tell you? When in Rome, do as the Romans do. This is the last stage between a man and a woman. Aren't we already friends? Is there a next step? What's the next step? Just when Meritus couldn't wait to add more to their relationship, Han Dong had already got up and gently patted her head with his palm. It's still far from that. Just in case, I'll warm up the magic eye before the night comes. You just lie down in the bathroom and rest. Oh, the city of London implemented curfew by turning off the streetlights. The purpose was to let the people of darkness have a more regular work and rest schedule. While it was helpful for their growth, it also allowed them to have abundant energy to invest in the next day's work and life. Han Dong, who was sitting cross-legged on the top floor of the hotel, had used layers of camouflage to make himself look like an old man. His body was also shrouded in the power cloak given by Mr. Newton, the holy magic cloak, which could not only conceal his breath, but also assist in casting spells. The magic eye had been adjusted to its final state and would not miss a single detail. A toad bead, symbolizing Mary, was swallowed into his stomach. Let's make a bargaining chip. Han Dong pinched his index finger and forced it to bend backward, making his index finger appear in a curly shape. With the support of the G-virus, this kind of curling and bending was nothing at all. Han Dong used the toad steps that he had just learned to directly step into the air and disappeared from the hotel's rooftop. Han Dong was basically the only person on the streets of London in the wee hours of the morning. Moreover, Han Dong also specifically chose those dark and secluded streets. He looked listless, as if he had been hit by something. However, things did not go as smoothly as Han Dong expected. After walking through 5 streets in a row, he did not feel any chill or any signs of a whirlpool. Could it be that I'm missing a characteristic that didn't show in my memory? I should be decadent enough like this. The camouflage given by the faceless skull is enough to deceive the mythical body, plus the spiral chip. It should not be wrong. Just as Han Dong bypassed the current street and changed to walk along the riverside path of the River Thames, suddenly a gust of cold wind blew. Han Dong looked in the direction of the cold wind, and a black whirlpool similar to the one in the old man's memory emerged at the bottom of the bridge pier. In the blink of an eye, the whirlpool disappeared. The bookseller in his memory appeared. The eyes hidden under the hood seemed to be looking at Han Dong, the decadent old man. Han Dong also immediately felt a pulling force similar to a spiral. As long as he relaxed his mind, he would be pulled over. Since he had to pretend, he would pretend to the end. The moment Han Dong deliberately relaxed, he was already standing in front of the bookstall. "How much is this book?" Han Dong imitated the way of asking in the old man's memory. The bookseller raised his completely spiral arm, pointed at Han Dong's curled finger, and asked for an exchange. Here, Han Dong's approach was a little different. He did not directly cut off the finger like the old man Voight and handed it to the other party. After all, there was a certain possibility that the bookseller would use part of his body to cast a curse and voodoo, causing the whirlpool to go directly into the core. Han Dong's approach was, he stretched out his right hand. It seemed that he wanted the bookseller to take off the curled index finger himself. Just as the two were about to touch, his gaze changed. The sacred blood corpse arm was fully opened. The curled finger instantly recovered and changed to a handshake with the bookseller. The blade-like cells of the saint blood flowed in Han Dong's right hand. Sizzle. Waves of curling black smoke rose quickly from the bookseller's palm due to the evil warding reaction. Boss robbery. Chapter 1047. The sacred blood from the Hall family was fully activated. Although Han Dong was not clear about the true source of the sacred blood for the time being, but it must involve a high-level existence in the Destiny world, because the sacred blood needed to constantly kill evil spirits to maintain its activity. It was an eternal curse for the Hall family. Even some members of the family turned into marionettes controlled by the sacred blood and forced themselves to kill the hybrid demons. But for Han Dong, such blood was a sharp weapon to kill demons. When accepting the sacred blood, Han Dong used the skull suppression, the body adaptation, the arm loading, and Count's uniqueness. Because he was killed by the sacred sword, his blood was mixed with the sacred blood and thus escaped the control of the blood god, to completely guide the sacred blood into his right arm in a controlling posture. In addition, on the night of receiving the sacred blood, there was also the support and training of the Scarlet Knights, Duchess Shea Cromwell. He was able to completely control this blood with special divinity for his own use. Not only could he kill the hybrid demons, but he could also suppress all the demons in the Destiny world. Now, Han Dong opened the third stage of the talent tree, Solitary Performer. Count even used wall observation to break through the level of atavistic body. Han Dong even had a simulated battle in the Dreamland the night before. He fought against the Rat Perugia alone, not including the giant form that fused with the land deed at the end. He was in an invincible position and barely suppressed the rat with atavistic body. Because of this, Han Dong chose to shake hands with the bookseller. However, the effect was not as good as expected. The sacred blood did cause burning damage to the spiral arm, but did not destroy its structure. The bookseller did not even have the intention to let go. He resisted the burning of the sacred blood and maintained the handshake state. At this moment, something strange happened. A dark vortex appeared in the bookseller's hood. It began to absorb all the materials in front of it, including the books on the stall, the water around the pier, Han Dong, who was shaking hands with him, and himself. This strange suction force was above Mary's space and could not be transmitted through space. The most important thing was that the state of handshake could not be removed. No matter how much strength Han Dong exerted with his right arm, he could not break free. Seeing this, Han Dong prepared to attack the bookseller directly. Secret of Death, Devourer of Hades. Anubis's back appeared behind him. Sand seeped out of the pores on his left arm, quickly forming a giant head similar to High Priest Imhotep in the air, swallowing the other party. However, the death spell that possessed divinity disintegrated on its own when it approached the black vortex, turning into ordinary grains of sand that were sucked into the vortex. This scene made Han Dong break out in a cold sweat. Count's consciousness shouted in his mind, "Nicholas, quickly break your hand. You'll be in trouble if you get sucked in." Count was also constantly exerting his strength, trying to break free from Han Dong's handshake state. However, he was unable to pull it out. No matter how much strength he exerted, he always felt that it was being dissolved by a whirlpool. Han Dong did not accept Count's reminder. It was not that Han Dong did not want to. He also thought of the broken hand at the first moment. With the regeneration of his right arm, he could easily recover. However, if a part of his body was taken away by the bookseller, Han Dong's intuition told him that this would become a troublesome matter and even threaten his life. Calm down. At such a dangerous moment, Han Dong forced himself to calm down. Perhaps he would be sucked in after 3 seconds. Even so, Han Dong's heart was still as water. Staring at the vortex pattern on the spiral arm and the spinning direction of the dark vortex under the hood, both were in a clockwise direction. This also made Han Dong think of a way. The reason why I can't pull out my right hand and remove the handshake state is that the whirlpool's force is counteracting my strength. In that case, Han Dong gathered his strength in his lower body. Toad steps. For a time, Han Dong's 2 seemingly ordinary legs instantly swelled to 3 times their size. His feet suddenly exerted force. Following the direction of the spiral, he gave a super fast somersault. When the spinning speed reached the maximum, Han Dong suddenly pulled out. Whoosh! His right hand was pulled out smoothly, and the handshake state was successfully removed. Han Dong, who was spinning, also took the opportunity to take a book from the stall. Void steps, meridians shining with starlight lit up between his calves. With one step, he directly went 10 meters away and successfully escaped the absorption range of the black vortex. At present, the bookseller's body and the stall were almost sucked in. However, Han Dong had no intention of running away. His consciousness swallowed a bright red fruit from the talent tree, and his energy was full. Traces of holy blood came out from Han Dong's right arm and condensed into a blood-colored spear in the air with his own thoughts. The body of the spear showed the double helix structure of DNA, which seemed to be the self-will of the holy blood. I don't believe that you can even resolve this spear, drawing out so much holy blood. Even Han Dong himself felt uncomfortable. Because his right arm had the characteristics of holy blood, Han Dong could also achieve self-blood, but the ratio was about 1,000, 1 or even more. In order to condense this spear, almost 90% of the reserve holy blood was taken. Before the black vortex was about to close, the demon I locked on, his left foot stepped forward. The strong and powerful soles of his feet directly stomped a 10-centimeter pit on the cement ground. His toes grabbed the ground, and then with the rotation of his waist, he transferred all the strength of his body to his right arm, throwing with all his strength. Buzz! The explosive sound of wind breaking exploded on the banks of the Thames River, and even the river beside Han Dong raised a splash of water several meters high. The holy spear turned into a red light and flew straight to the target. Before the black vortex closed, it pierced into it. Suddenly, a cry full of sadness and resentment came out, and soon disappeared with the vortex. Obviously, this spear caused real damage to the guy behind the vortex. Run! With a smile on his face, Han Dong did not stay for a moment. After leaving the lakeside area with agile steps, he directly teleported back to the hotel with the help of the toad pearl in his body. Just as Han Dong left, in the lakeside area where the incident happened, a special black candle was burning on a tree between the tree-lined paths. It could release more intense darkness to cover individuals. In the area covered by the dark candle flame, a young woman was hanging by a rope. It was the receptionist of the hotel where Han Dong stayed. In the hotel room, under Han Dong's arrangement, Meridas cooperated with Nicole, and the two of them set up water enchantment in every corner of the room. Toga Gonzalez was also called out. He used Hell's chains to seal several key areas to ensure that the vortex would not find them during this period of time. Everything was ready. Han Dong took out a book and put it on the desk. It was a book that he had just casually taken from the bookstall. The surface of the book was printed with the vortex pattern that made Han Dong uncomfortable. After making all the preparations, Han Dong opened the first page of the book. No monsters came out of the book, and there was no spiraling effect. It was just a very normal book. The first page. In the middle, there was a rather exquisite whirlpool icon. Below were 4 words. They were written in twisted lines in the hybrid demon language. Church of the Vortex. Chapter 1048. This is an initiation ritual book. Han Dong spent an entire hour carefully reading the contents of the book. Immediately, he understood what Voight meant when he said, "I have failed before his death." The spiraling of the old man's body was mostly due to him learning the book of initiation rites. It was the spiraling of his own body. Due to his lack of willpower, he ultimately failed to meet the requirements of the ritual book. This caused his body to spiral uncontrollably until his body completely turned into a vortex, absorbing him and dissipating him, never to be reincarnated. According to the description of the initiation ritual book, as long as one could meet the requirements of the ritual, they would be able to grasp the power of the vortex. At the same time, they would become a member of the Church of the Maelstrom. There was a sentence on the last page of the book that was circled by Han Dong. Any member of the Church of the Maelstrom that meets the standard can use the London Vortex to head to the church. Han Dong sat in front of his desk with his hands crossed under his chin. He said with a gloomy face, with a grim expression, he said, "I remember when I first came to London, I learned from the miners that the villages outside the city were built around the Black Cathedral and the Church of the Church. These Church of the Evernight only accept prisoners on death row as their followers. Is there a connection between this and the Church of the Maelstrom? If there is a connection, this would involve the upper echelons of London's administration, right? Moreover, in the dark forest outside the city, there are many hybrid demons belonging to the other old kings who are trying to infiltrate London. The main purpose of infiltrating should be the Maelstrom incident. Or rather, the old kings have already sensed that something is wrong with London, so they deliberately sent people over." Han Dong glanced at the bathroom and continued to ponder. Wait, Bufo knew that I was going to London, so he made me stay in K for 3 months. Could it be on purpose? He deliberately waited for the Maelstrom incident to ferment to a certain extent before letting me come over. Meritus followed me the entire time. As a descendant of the Bufo, an existence like the Bufo that can control the Dreamlands can also rely on Mary to roughly understand the situation here. The yellow-robed man, whom I have not seen for a long time, also specially rushed over from the Holy City. He also specially asked me to investigate this matter. The fact that the Maelstrom incident had attracted the attention of the old kings meant that it had something to do with the participants of fate that had appeared in London. Even though the participants were dead, they could still be influencing the situation. I seem to have been drawn into an event that involved many interests. No wonder Yellow Robe would take the initiative to appear and request for me to go, and no matter what. Indeed, the danger hidden in the whirlpool is much higher than I expected. Han Dong smiled helplessly and shook his head. From the looks of it, the bookseller that I've come into contact with is definitely at the atavistic body level. And in the Church of the Maelstrom, there may be more existences similar to the bookseller, or even stronger existences. The things involved may rise to the level of a king. Just as Han Dong's nerves were slightly shaken, there was a tingling sensation on the back of his right hand. The yellow seal was flickering slightly. Oh, I know. I didn't say I was going to give up on the investigation. As Han Dong said so, the yellow seal quickly dissipated. He leaned back on the recliner and held the back of his head with both hands, trying to relax his body as much as possible. What should I do next? Should I use the forces in London or continue to explore alone? Can the London agents be trusted? Why is there still not much progress in the investigation of a mythical body in London? These are all questions. I'll be in trouble if I'm not careful. Even with Yellow Robe's help, all the clues will be cut off even if I don't die. He will be disappointed and even take back my identity as an emissary. I can't rush things. I can't rush things that I'm not sure about. Let's wait. Let's wait for the doctor's results. For the next 2 days, Han Dong wandered around London like an ordinary guest. During this period, there were also agents who came to ask about the disappearance of the old man Voight. Other than that, there was nothing special. Moreover, it was different from what Han Dong had expected. He thought that the incident of him hurting the bookseller under the bridge pier would cause him to be targeted by the maelstrom. However, during this period of travel, he did not catch a glimpse of any objects related to the maelstrom. Even the related maelstrom incidents showed signs of decreasing. Finally, on the third day, the mobile land deed sensed something. Still using the excuse of leaving the city for an hour, Han Dong entered the land deed the moment he arrived at the Forest of Darkness. "Doctor, what's the result?" In the core laboratory, the swollen doctor was slumped in a ghoul chair in the form of a giant brain. 3 days and 3 nights of high-intensity research had exhausted him quite a bit. The substance that caused the corporeal body to spiral has been extracted from the mutant demon's crystal core. I've also finished writing the analysis report. It's better for you to take a look at it yourself, sir. This may involve some troublesome matters. Doctor number 99 West, a former resident of Derry who was not a mutant demon, took out a test tube from the cold storage room. The black liquid in the test tube was spiraling on its own. Han Dong took the test tube and opened the report. After reading it for less than a minute, his eyes became gloomy. "I'm going to meet Yellow Robe. Doctor, come with me." "Okay." Hearing that he was going to meet a superior existence, the doctor was so excited that his entire brain was trembling. "Mary, do you want to come? Let's go." Han Dong held the test tube and the report in his hand and went straight to the theater area. Although the 2 mutant demons who followed him were mentally prepared in advance, the moment they stepped into the theater, they stared at the white tentacles all over the private theater. Mary was immediately drenched. The ghoul chair that carried the doctor immediately became weak, and the doctor directly rolled down. In the giant brain form, the doctor was like a rubber ball, rolling down the slanted aisle toward the stage. Fortunately, Han Dong grabbed his cranial nerve and dragged him back. There was no one in the theater for the time being, only the tentacles were wriggling. Han Dong stared at the stage and said with a serious face, "Senior, are the higher-ups of London rebelling? The substance I extracted from the Dark Resident's crystal cores that were affected by the vortex is essentially a combination of dark attribute pollution source and an unknown substance. Expressed in a spiral shape, it could be effective against mutant demons." At this time, a yellow robe floated down from above the stage and combined with the tentacles at the bottom to form Yellow Robe. On the surface, it does look like this. I believe you've seen that many of the Old King's forces are investigating this matter and even killing the Dark Residents, using their identities to invade London. However, the truth hidden here is obscured by the fog. This is the troublesome matter that I mentioned. Your investigation progress is not bad. Continue. Based on your excellent performance under the bridge pier while pretending to be an old man a few days ago, I'll give you a small suggestion. Senior, please speak. Since you don't believe in the forces in London, you should explore alone. In your hands, don't you happen to have a good exploration path? Path? Senior, you mean? Just standing on the periphery will never be able to understand the truth of the matter. Just like those who wander outside the door, they will always be nothing more than shadows. If you want to decipher it, you must become a person in the game. Chapter 1049. Han Dong naturally knew what Yellow Robe meant by pathway. Learning the initiation ritual book, becoming a trainee, and going deep into the vortex. The danger was self-evident. Yellow Robe, who was floating above the stage, continued to speak in a mysterious and soul-stirring voice. Since the substance has been analyzed, with your faceless head and black vortex body, you will be able to adapt or even accommodate such a vortex. Becoming a player in the game is also the most suitable for a performer and imitator like you. When you're in real danger, I will also provide help. Yellow Robe had emphasized twice that he would provide help in times of danger, which was equivalent to forcing Han Dong to continue the investigation. Yes, at this point, Han Dong had no other choice. Moreover, based on the information Han Dong currently had, becoming a player in the game was indeed the most direct way to explore. Besides, Han Dong already had the vortex essence needed to join the church. According to the introduction of the initiation ritual book, to join the church, one needed to extract the vortex essence to prove one's determination. The target of extraction was the dark inhabitants of London. According to the contents of the ritual book, the raw materials were prepared: 500 g of high-purity black rock, or 20 g of hallucinogenic magic sage grass, 100 g of hybrid demon bones with magic power, 500 milliliters of Thames water, and a part of the caster's limbs. The above materials were mixed and ground, and according to the instructions in the ritual book, a 3m times 3m vortex array was drawn. It can be enlarged or reduced according to the above scale, according to the specific situation. After the vortex array was drawn, one only needed to bring a certain number of dark inhabitants to the array area for extraction. This was the vortex incident that happened in London. The old man, Voight, that Han Dong came into contact with also carried out such an evil ritual. After collecting the materials, he drew the array in the mining company he worked for. Using various deceptions, he lured some of the bosses who were prejudiced against him and hated him to the room where the array was, and he himself was in it. When the array was activated, the so-called old man who set up the array was not harmed, and the rest were all refined by the vortex array. Voight also carried out serious self-harm, pretending that he was attacked by the vortex and survived by luck. Now, the essence collected by Voight had been extracted by the doctor, allowing Han Dong to be exempted from the sinful act of the first step of joining the church, refinement. He no longer needed to refine the dark dwellers. Second step of joining the church, ingestion. According to the explanation of the initiation ceremony book, once an individual absorbs the essence, it is bound to spiral. At this time, the individual had to rely on their own will to resist the vortex that filled their body, causing the spiraling to only manifest on one part of their body. It could be a finger or an entire arm. It could also be the tongue or the entire head. In short, it required the individual to limit the spiral transformation to one part. Once the restriction was successful, the individual would be considered a trainee instructor and could report to the church. Old Voight was still normal in the early stages of ingestion, limiting the spiraling to his fingers. But as time went on, due to his lack of willpower, he was unable to stop the spiral from spreading to his entire body. Every piece of his skin and every bone in his body was twisted. It was an unstoppable spiral that eventually turned his physical body into a whirlpool and swallowed him into a bottomless abyss, never to be reincarnated. He started practicing as soon as he said so. After Han Dong returned to the hotel, he immediately began the initiation ceremony. No matter what happens to me, don't disturb me. Han Dong sat cross-legged on the bed and drank the essence of the whirlpool in the test tube. He thought that his body would undergo an extremely exaggerated distortion and deformation. However, the actual result made Han Dong widen his eyes in shock. His body did not spiral at all, and he did not even feel any discomfort. On the contrary, he felt that it was delicious. It was even like drinking iced black tea. He felt unusually refreshed from his throat to his abdomen. Han Dong quickly took off his coat. He saw that the black vortex pattern on the surface of his torso was rotating clockwise. The situation inside his body was even more peculiar. The black vortex torso was playing a role of concentration and purification. The essence liquid that had been processed by the torso was immediately sent to the head to be used as fertilizer for the talent tree. The result was that a branch had spiraled. This change did not make Han Dong uncomfortable. Instead, he felt that his brain capacity had increased and the spiraling branch had become tougher. What's going on? My body is not affected by the whirlpool, or is it completely compatible with the whirlpool? The main problem should be the black vortex torso. In just 5 minutes, the essence from the old man Voight had been completely absorbed. At this time, Han Dong suddenly covered his stomach. Grumble, the hungry sound of his stomach was unusually loud, and a strong sense of hunger swept through his brain. It was the black vortex body that conveyed the message that it wanted more essence of the whirlpool. The strong sense of hunger that hit his brain even made Han Dong show a zombie-like look. What? What's going on? Han Dong was a little confused. The strong sense of hunger was disturbing his rationality, and a terrible idea of refining a large number of dark residents to fill the hunger emerged. However, Han Dong's willpower was still very strong, and he quickly came up with the best solution. Wasn't the top floor of the hotel where the essence gathered? In different guest rooms, there were people involved in the whirlpool incident. Let's do it. The hungry Han Dong turned into a crawling posture and crawled from the ceiling to the door, his eyes flashing with a terrifying red light. Master, you don't seem to be in a good state, staring at the zombie-like Han Dong. Nicole was so scared that she fell into Merida's arms. Even Togu had a strange expression on his face. When he crawled to the door, Han Dong deliberately restrained his hunger and pretended to have a reassuring expression. While dripping saliva, he reluctantly said, "I'm going to visit a neighbor. I'll be back soon." After a while, a pleading voice came from the guest room next door. "No, I'm about to join the cult. Please let me go." The pleading and screaming stopped abruptly. Only the corpse with a hole in its chest was left. The spiral crystal core was taken out and swallowed by Han Dong. Still unable to stop his hunger, he could only continue to visit the next neighbor. Han Dong's crazy behavior was immediately noticed. The London agents who received the news gathered 3 teams and rushed downstairs to the hotel, ready to arrest Han Dong. Just as the leading ministerial investigator stepped into the hotel lobby, he was stunned. He looked at the front desk of the hotel, the receptionist who hung herself with a knot. In their eyes, the hanging knot was like a dark tentacle leading to the abyss. The agent was so scared that he directly sat on the ground, and the candles on his shoulders were all extinguished. Without waiting for the agent to speak, the receptionist's voice came, "You can go back. I'll take care of things here." "Yes." Chapter 1050. As Han Dong continued to devour the crystal cores of these survivors, his hunger slowly disappeared. Until he ate the crystal core of the last guest, Han Dong reluctantly showed that he was full. At this point, all the branches of the talent tree, smiley face, showed a certain degree of spiral. It didn't look awkward. Instead, it was very natural. After all, some trees also showed a certain degree of spiral. Stable capacity. Han Dong didn't have any new abilities or a change in a talent. It was just that the talent tree itself should be fertilized like this, becoming more stable, and its capacity increased, allowing Han Dong to release more magic. On the top floor of the hotel, Han Dong returned to his normal state and returned to the dormitory. "Master, are you okay? It's done. You guys can come back first." Han Dong waved his hand and let Togu and Nicole return to their respective cells. Meridas squatted on the sofa in the corner in a toad position. She stared at Han Dong with a strange look, as if she smelled a dangerous aura that she had never felt before. Did you eat the crystal cores of the hybrid demons? This is against the rules. If this is leaked out, you will be judged by the old kings. What I ate was an infected crystal core. This group of hybrid demons were bewitched and lost themselves, doing the sinful act of refining their own kind. I'm getting rid of evil for the people. I'll reluctantly believe you. Now, what are we going to do? Shower together? You're a little strange. This lord doesn't want to mate today. Who said I want to mate with you? I'm just taking a shower. After I'm done, I'll go directly to the mysterious Maelstrom Order. Meridas still had a vigilant look in her eyes as she carefully approached Han Dong. She stuck out her wet tongue and licked Han Dong's face back and forth. Only then did she confirm that the young man in front of her was indeed Han Dong and that there was no problem with his mind. In the bathroom, when the warm water filled the bathtub, Mary also began to take off her clothes. Unexpectedly, Han Dong held her down. "You don't have to take off your clothes. Just go in. Who bathes with clothes on? Do you humans have such weird fetishes?" Mary was a little unhappy. She had to take off her clothes today. Han Dong had a helpless look on his face as he muttered, "When we head to the church later, if you don't have any clothes to wear and get targeted by those perverted maelstrom instructors, I won't care." Mary looked at Han Dong suspiciously. "What are you trying to do?" she asked. "What are you trying to do? How are we going to church? Aren't we going to the church in the village outside the city?" "No, we'll go through the bathtub later." Oh, although toads were very open when it came to mating, privacy was still important. Meritus had been in London for a long time and had encountered many strange things. She was disgusted by spiraling life forms. Thinking of this, she temporarily put down her arrogance and soaked in the bathtub with Han Dong in a small white singlet. "How do we get there?" "You'll find out later. Before I go, I have to make a few things clear. The existence that we will face next is very likely to surpass the atavistic body. Moreover, we already know that the corresponding substance of the maelstrom has the characteristic of targeting hybrid demons. I suggest that Miss Mary temporarily separate from me and go out of the city to wait for my news." "No," Meritus resolutely denied. "Since I gave up my own toad palace and followed you on an adventure, how can I let you go alone? Besides, in terms of rank, I'm above you. Even in the atavistic body, I'm ranked at the top. Moreover, the dark dwellers that have encountered accidents in London are at most mature. Atavistic and mature are fundamentally different. I still have a lot of trump cards that I haven't used yet." Meritus pretended to be arrogant and fearless. In fact, as early as in Han Dong's manner, when she learned that the maelstrom targeted hybrid demons and even a high-level existence like Yellow Robe had come to intervene, she was already a little scared. But she didn't know why. Meritus wasn't willing to let the man in front of her take the risk alone. At this point, Mary put one of her legs on Han Dong's shoulder. The two of them sat facing each other in the bathtub. "That's right. Didn't you say that the initiation ceremony requires a part of the body to spiral? Why didn't I see your changes?" Saying that, Han Dong took off his shirt. His body had already changed. On his thin and weak body, there were originally black maelstrom that was similar to a tattoo. Now, it had pierced into his body. It was similar to a scar that had just healed. Moreover, there were creases of flesh around these black maelstrom stripes. It was indeed similar to a maelstrom embedded in the body. If one really had to compare, it was like a raisin shuriken on the chest. So beautiful. The toad demon's aesthetic was indeed different. Mary was actually fascinated by these lines. She even wanted to climb onto Han Dong's body and lick it to see what it tasted like. Who knew that as soon as she got up, she was pushed back by Han Dong's slap. "I haven't finished talking yet. Since you want to go, you have to be clear about some things. The Church of the Maelstrom must be closely related to the fate of the City of London. Moreover, this group of participants is very special. They might even be special participants that were specially arranged by the Black Tower to test or even influence the City of London. To seize the sovereignty of our world, it's just a test. However, it's indeed very dangerous. It's also because of this that it attracted the attention of many old kings. For example, the son of the black goat we met in the dark forest. I even suspect that most of the upper echelons of London have fallen. Even the old king behind them, the mother of Evernight, has been bewitched. Of course, we still have to go in and investigate before we know the specific situation. If the mother of Evernight really betrayed us, wouldn't we be facing a king? As a hybrid demon, Meritus was very clear about the difference between the levels of hybrid demons. Starting from the mature body, the gap between each stage was twice or even several times higher. A king could take Meritus's life with a wave of his hand. No matter how many trump cards she had, it would be useless. Since the Yellow Robe has promised to help us twice in a row, I believe that if we are really targeted by the mother of Evernight, he will definitely appear. After all, I will also bring the land deed with me. Anyway, if we die together. I'm not afraid. Come into my body first. The entrance should only recognize trainees who have completed the ritual. I want to see how you go in through the bathtub first. Meritus was quite curious about this new thing that she had never seen before. It's very simple. The sentence on the last page of the book has already explained that the whirlpool is the entrance. After saying that, Han Dong reached out and stirred the bathtub water in front of him. Slowly, a water whirlpool formed with Han Dong stirring. A strange suction force immediately came out. Mary also clearly felt the sense of space being sealed. She quickly turned into a toad pearl and lodged in Han Dong's body. The whirlpool formed. In the blink of an eye, Han Dong, who was sitting in the bathtub, had disappeared. Only the water whirlpool in the bathtub that slowly stopped spinning was left. The guest room became deserted. At this moment, creak, the bathroom door slowly opened. Outside the door, the little girl at the front desk was hanging on a rope. She stared at the gradually dissipating whirlpool in the bathtub and revealed a strange smile. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.